I've read this one before, but I'm reading it again anyway. John Dillinger marches on. Sometimes I write about the 30s because they were a good training ground. People learned to live with adversity as a common, everyday thing. When trouble come, when trouble came, they adjusted and made the next move, and if there wasn't one, they often created one. And the people who had jobs did them with artistry. A garage mechanic could fix your car. Doctors made house calls. Cab drivers not only knew every street in town, but they were also versed in philosophy. Pharmacists would walk up to you in drugstores and ask you what you needed. The ushers in movie houses were more handsome than the movie stars. People made their own clothes, repaired their own shoes. Almost everybody did things well. Now, people in and out of their professions are totally inept. How they even wipe their own asses is beyond me. And when adversity arrives, they are dismayed. They quit, spit it out, lay down. These, coddled to the extremes, are only used to victory, or the soft way. It's not their fault, I suppose, that they didn't live through the 30s, but I'm still hardly tempted to adore them. Oh, hello there. I didn't see you guys come in. Welcome to Bitcoin Talk Show, or the Thomas Hunt Show, or whatever we're calling it these days. That was a little Charles Bukowski from War All the Time, Poems 1981 through 84. We're also joined by Dan Eve. How's it going, Dan?
It's going pretty good. It's going pretty good. I think, when I think about how some people have got it in tiny places, I'm pretty lucky, just sort of chilling and being able to go around the house and the garden and stuff. So, yeah, I can't really moan.
We are pretty lucky. We are at home, but I'm at home most of the time anyway. And I have plenty of books and movies and things to watch. They're always developing new stuff on streaming shows. Let's check in on the price of Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is up 1.83% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 7,199, a high of 7,284, and a low of $7,030. Volume 5,158 Bitcoins traded, still leaning towards margin longs with 66% of the market going that way, and the halving is scheduled for May 9th, just a little bit before my birthday. 3,430 blocks away. So it's going good there, right, Dan? Doing all right.
Yeah, there's mining's back up to just shy of 120 exahash. So I think, and that's the all-time high was like what 100 and something like 123. So I think that mining power's pretty much at full throttle.
Well, you got to figure they're trying to get those last large rewards, right? They're trying to get the last 12.5s on the market before it goes down to 6.25. So it is a battle for the scraps of the last remaining large Bitcoin rewards. Looks like we're joined by Norm in the chat. Say hi to Norm. Norm says, "You're back. 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. wasn't the same without you." Looks like Norm has some trouble sleeping. I think he's in the South Korean time zone over there, so quite a different time. Also want to say hi to everyone else in the chat. We have about 5 people watching us. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share so that more people know about this show. I know we've been putting out a lot of shows this week, and it may seem confusing, but there's a plan to all of that. I think it's going to work out in the end for the network. I don't know if you're going to like it, but for the network, having a lot of smaller shows with more keywords in the title, I think is going to bring in more random viewers, more new Bitcoiners, a chance once again to teach everybody about wallets and about cold storage and about trading. And just we're going to go through all of that again with new people. So for the old people, might not be that fun, but for the new people, it's going to be great. Also, I wanted to say, I was critical of myself reading articles during the Bitcoin group, and that was too much. It was too sarcastic. Reading articles is fine. There's lots of occasions where people are like working outside, or they're running, or they're cleaning their house, or they're listening in the background, or they don't like reading, or they're not good at reading, or they're blind, or they like the audio performance where someone would prefer an audio version of an article. So I was short-sighted and just being quippy to say that reading articles is not worth it or listening to articles is stupid. So it's not challenging. And I think that's something I wanted to talk about today, about what you do with your life, and if you find it challenging, or if you find it like doing something that's, you know, more normal is still satisfying because people like it. So it's one of those things where I do like a challenge, and certainly reading articles, it's a challenge. Like, you have to try to say it perfectly. I know I screw up people's names all the time. I know I screw up words all the time. I'm trying to practice those words. So in those ways, it's a challenge, and I'm trying to improve it. And I want people to enjoy the readings, and I want to keep doing it. So that's a lot of challenge in there. But it's not a challenge like other things that are new. But that's mainly what I was saying there, talking about that. So looks like Mrs. Sheffield.
When I play
Go ahead, Dan. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say when I play computer games, you know, I like to put them on easy just because, you know, I think I like playing the game, but I want to just make my way through it and get it kind of done and enjoy it rather than having to redo levels. But in everything else, I like a challenge. You know, I won't pick the easiest way to sort of, you know, take the garbage out. I'll try and do it like a balancing act or something. You know, got to make it interesting.
I feel like the easy way would have been, you know, teaching school, and every year we do the Roman Empire, and every year, you know, maybe you get better at your lecture on the Roman Empire, but it's kind of like the same thing every year. It's very unlikely there's going to be large changes in Roman history, or, you know, English, or whatever you're teaching, or, you know, Scarlet Letter or whatever. It's kind of the same Scarlet Letter. Maybe the kids are interesting, maybe the discussion's interesting, and that's what I think we hope for here, is that, you know, you guys will be interesting, and we'll be interesting. We'll be interesting together, and that we can reach that higher level of, you know, unintended consequences, of unplanned ideas, of, you know, unknown unknowns, as Donald Rumsfeld said so long ago. So that's a little more fun. That's a little more challenging. And that's why we still have this show. Saturday and Sunday is still open. Again, I'm still stuck at home like everybody else, and I pretty much stay at home anyway. So I figured, you know, we got to do International Book Day, and we got to do Big Book Day. So we got to keep the Thomas Hunt Show, even if it pisses lots of people off, which is not really what we're intending to do. But politics is what it is these days. Politics is a mess and a nightmare. And just talking about it at all sparks all kinds of fires and things. But what can we do? We have to talk about it, right, Dan?
Oh, yeah.
Let's see what else we're talking about this morning. On the World Crypto Network, we covered some Bitcoin stories. That's right. We talked about Coin Market Cap. Dan, did you get a look at this? Ethereum up 7%, Ripple up 3%, Tether down 1/3 of a point, Bitcoin Cash up about 2.5%, Bitcoin SV up 2.25%, Litecoin up 3%, Binance up almost 5%, EOS up 3.5%, Tezos up a massive 8.85%. Rounding out the top 10 altcoins. Dan, what do you think of the altcoins today?
Well, I think you know, I do have a few little mini bags in there, so I'm quite happy. What is sad though is that a friend of mine I haven't seen since literally secondary school, so about when I was about 16, 17, so it's like 20 years ago now. Eesh. And he said, "Oh, you know, I saw that on PlayStation that you've changed your name. You said crypto. You into Bitcoin and stuff." And I was like, "Yeah." And yeah, sadly, it turns out that he put all his money in Ripple at the top. So that's sad. But I'm happy to see Ripple go up slightly for him.
The problem with a lot of these,
I think it's going to be
with these prices going up, is that they're going up off of bottoms. They're off of horrible bottoms where I don't know where he got Ripple, maybe 30 cents, maybe $3. But, you know, if it goes from, like right here, what's Ripple? Oh, it's 19 cents. So if Ripple goes from 15 cents to 19 cents, it's a fantastic rise. But if you got it at $3, you're still heartbroken. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Didn't it peak at like $3.80 or something?
It was incredible. I remember when it was pennies, and then somehow I blinked and it was $3 or $2 or something insane, and the Ripple people were very happy. And then I blinked again, and yeah, it's back to 19 cents. So I don't know.
Savage.
Just got to keep an eye on this stuff, I guess. I think the top on Ripple, I want to say $2. 3 might be too high, but just generally, it was just orders magnitude higher than it was. But of course, everything was that way. Everything was crazy high. It's not.
It
not
was.
Just Ripple.
It was over $3.20.
It was over $3.20. Okay, well there you go.
Yeah, it was.
Freaking
Hang on a
heartbreak.
sec.
But yeah, I never had any to begin with. But yeah, Ripple.
$3.36 I have on CoinMarketCap.
Wow, they're saying 3.8 was the top. Jennifer says she took her profits at 21 cents. That's always the way. I know everyone was always so excited Ethereum went to 1,000, but I know lots of people that took profits at $20 or $100, and they were very happy until the damn thing went to 1,000. So we've also had some exciting news in the financial markets. Flagship Renaissance Funds dabbles with Bitcoin. Medallion has entered the world of cryptocurrency trading, and these words and names don't really mean anything to me, but this is the Financial Times. So whenever Bitcoin is mentioned in the FT, it's always great news and good for Bitcoin. Dan, did you see this? What do you think about these? Oh yeah, well, there's Isabella. She doesn't like Bitcoin. She writes the opinion pieces or whatever there. She's hated Bitcoin for a long time. Which has been funny as it's going up and down could have made or broke her career if she bought any and held any at any point. It could have maybe changed her mind, or maybe just made her
maybe
think
she
that
wants to become a career Bitcoin naysayer like Peter Schiff or Nouriel.
Or that Francis Coppola, yeah.
Or Francis Coppola, yeah. Although she says, I follow her on Twitter, she does say some pretty logical things, but just not about Bitcoin. She doesn't like Bitcoin.
It breaks down. They have a gap. They can't talk about it. But as we can see, this gap is now getting filled by Renaissance Funds, who is now going to be dabbling and investing in Bitcoin. We also read an article from Cointelegraph about crypto scams on the rise and Plus Token. And a lot of people were talking during the big crash and before it that it could have just been Plus Token, who apparently raised 2.9 heartbreaking $1 billion. That's billion with a B in the scam. And they were cashing out. And I know at the time we quoted the CoinDesk article, and CoinDesk seemed to quote Chainalysis. Well, now Chainalysis is saying the exact opposite thing, saying that it was not the Plus Token being sold that crashed out Bitcoin. It was the coronavirus. It was the risk off. Everyone getting out of all the markets at the same time. Which, again, everyone's like, oh, Bitcoin's supposed to be strong against this. Well, Bitcoin's supposed to be strong against hyperinflation. Bitcoin has a limited number of units, and that limited number is getting smaller, as we see with the halving. Whereas on the other side, the Federal Reserve, the United States Central Bank,
there is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
There's an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. So in the after crash, not the risk off, but in the hyperinflation possible crash of the future, Bitcoin could do very well. That's kind of what it's designed for. In this sudden, everything in the market crashes, everyone and their brother is selling to cover their short sales that failed or their longs that failed. Everyone has a reason to sell, or they're just afraid, just fear. Bitcoin didn't do well against that, but neither did anything else, except maybe gold. Maybe gold held its strength. Maybe gold is too hard to get on the exchanges. You have to load it into that box. You have to ship it. It's very heavy. It takes a long time. It hurts the postman's back, like carrying all that gold.
And if you go back to, if electronic systems are destroyed in this like Armageddon type scenario, you would see humans going back to, resources, actual physical things probably. So that's possibly what was sparking people to shit their pants and like sell everything. I made the bad mistake of, I talked about selling out all my pension into cash. Just before the crash, just because I thought, we're overdue, 10 years it's been since the last 12 years since the last crash. So, yeah, but I didn't do it. Wish I did.
Well, you got scams. You got to think in percentages. I did manage to move 60 or 70% of my, and it's just a very small retirement fund they gave me at work, and I ain't balling or nothing, but I moved 60 or 70% of it into cash, which cost me because the damn thing went up more after that, right? And then eventually it did go down. But again, I don't know how to time. No one can time the market. So, of course, I didn't know where the bottom was to buy back in. So I'm still just kind of sitting out there. But even then, I don't even know that this is the recovery. So I don't mind taking a little profits, saying that, you know, I was a good trader over the last 5-10 years or whatever. You should take some profits. It's been a long time. That's different kind of money. But yes, it was crazy on the markets, and it's been crazy, and it might continue to be crazy.
And on the subject of scams, so there's one floating around. Both I got two actually for two of my email addresses, and my girlfriend got one to her email address as well. And so just if you get an email, I'm not making this up, because what they do is they buy your password from, or find it on a list of, you know, hacked passwords from, say, I don't know, Sony or whoever else has screwed up. And they'll print your password and get your name, and they'll be like, "Hey, Dan, password so and so. You know, I've got loads of pictures of you pleasuring yourself in front of the computer." And so yeah, it's definitely not real. So don't freak out. Like, these people are like obviously evil, and they're just trying to scam you and make you scared. But yeah, be wary that if you do get an email like that, it's not real. So don't be sort of scared into sending.
That's a good point, Dan. Also, don't follow any of those reset your password emails if they come from weird addresses. I know GoDaddy has been sending me a lot lately, and I don't even have anything there. So it's very strange. And if it's very strange, never follow the link. Never enter your password. Trust your intuition. You can do it. You can avoid this. And like Dan was saying earlier, though, my favorite movie last year is based on a similar plot to that. It's called Long Shot, with Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron. And I don't know, but I just love this movie.
It's a good film.
Seth Rogen's cool. like a big idiot, and he's kind of he's a journalist and stuff. He's kind of a weirdo. And then Charlize Theron is Secretary of State. So she's just very prim and proper, and of course, supermodel, beautiful. And it's a romantic comedy, so you know what's going to happen. But it's fun, and it involves blackmail, and like Dan was saying, scary emails and so on and so forth. But you have to see the movie. I don't want to ruin too much of it. Let's go.
Also,
on our third article. We got to keep moving. Oh. Go ahead, Dan. What you got? Back to
just
you.
Very quickly. The opposite happened today. The opposite of a scam happened. A reverse scam happened. I was just saying to Tom, like a few minutes before the show, in Commerce Block's Telegram, someone posted they needed help getting their Ethereum tokens out, and they put their private key. And unfortunately, looks like that they've lost their funds. So never post your private key anywhere.
Never post your private key. Yeah, that's like a race to see who's going to get that. And at some point, you kind of hope maybe a good Samaritan will get it and give it back to the guy. But you cannot count on that. If you post your private key into a public chat with 30 people or whatever it is, even with 5 people, somebody's going to snag those keys, and it's not going to go well. I would just want to thank the 12 or so viewers that we have on YouTube. We had 2 or 3 on Facebook too. Give us a thumbs up and a share. If you haven't already, please subscribe down below. We have about 40% unsubscribed. So I'm looking at you, and all you have to do is subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. Thanks to Martin in the chat, giving us a $5 donation and welcoming us back. We did kind of switch to doing more kind of Bitcoin news shows during the week. I do have a plan to eventually live stream all of those shows. That's why I kind of made them small. They're kind of modular. They're like pieces that fit into my CNN live stream puzzle that I've always wanted. And thanks to Open Broadcaster and a little graphical work, thanks to Crypto Graffiti, of course, for the artwork, and Kraken, who owns the artwork. But we were able to put together all these graphics and all this fun. So we're having a whole CNN type fun thing going on. But I know you guys are here for Tiger King. I don't want to make it seem like we're not going to discuss Tiger King. We're certainly moving towards a vital and valuable, large discussion with Tiger King. We also talked this morning about Bitcoin price pumps following the U.S. Fed QE money printing, and that every time the Fed prints money, it seems like the price of Bitcoin skyrockets.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
So obviously we know why this is. We've known about this for a while, but it's neat to see it codified into an article that this is why the price of Bitcoin is going up.
Did you see the tweet from Brian Armstrong that from Coinbase? He pointed out that there's been a spike of deposits of $1,200 since they since they got the stimulus check, there was a massive spike of loads of people obviously just buying Bitcoin with it.
I saw that, and I know all the libertarians are very excited that everyone should spend their $1,200 check from the government on Bitcoin. But back here in reality, a lot of normal people have rent to pay. And I don't think that it's a good idea for them to, not pay their rent or to not pay their credit card bills, even though we do have this strange opportunity they're giving us where, oh, we'll put off the bills till next month. Oh, we'll put off the bills till next month. Next month is going to come. You're going to need some money. I guess you could put some of it into Bitcoin. If you're in a better financial situation, sure, it's easy for you to just shrug your shoulders and put it into Bitcoin. You probably think it's kind of fun too. But yeah, for normal people, they're going to have to spend that money on bills and crisis items like food and so on and so forth. So it's a little flippant just to joke that we could all then invest. We can't all. And I guess if you're a gambler and you're thinking, hey, I'll gamble this month, I'll make money next month, I mean, I guess it'd be all right. But that's a heck of a way to gamble with the family's food money. So,
but if everyone did it, in synchronicity, then the price would pump, and they would be able to immediately sell out for a bit more, and then get a 10% more resources with their money. That's not financial advice. Don't do it. Don't squander spend it on Bitcoin if you want, but don't, make sure you can eat. It's not advice.
If only the government had converted the money into Bitcoin and given it directly to the people in Bitcoin, causing the price of Bitcoin to rise. By the time the people would have gotten their stimulus checks, there would have been more there. And the international fervor of people getting into Bitcoin after the president suggests it and the U.S. government uses it to send the money out in a cheaper, easier way than checks or direct deposit. That would have been great, but that hasn't happened yet. Maybe next time. For now, we just know that there's a definite correlation, 2013, 2017, and now we're watching for 2020. When they print lots of money, the price of Bitcoin goes up. Now we're moving on to Tiger King, the star of the show today and the star of a lot of people's show. And again, this is a lighter topic than we usually do, so it's okay if you're not into it. But if you're into Tiger King, I think we're going to have fun. We're going to take your phone calls, and we're going to talk to the chat, and we're going to get everybody's opinion. Now, as we know, spoilers ahead. Hopefully by now you've watched the Netflix documentary Tiger King. If you haven't, you're way behind. You need to pause this show, go watch it, and then come back and watch this show. We don't want to ruin your fun, but we're definitely going to be talking about behind-the-scenes things and what happens on the documentary, which could make it less fun for you. Part of the fun thing about this documentary is that every character, there's just more detail. And at the end of each episode, they give you some kind of a story that just blows your mind. So I don't want you to lose your chance at having your mind blown. Mainly what we're going to talk about here is the Tiger King after episode hosted by Joel McHale from Community and Talk Soup. As it says here, it snared more than 5 billion streaming minutes, according to Nielsen ratings. An incredibly popular show, just really breaking the mold. It had interviews with all of these people, and I think we're just going to go step by step and talk about them. Dan, what do you think about Tiger King? Did you watch the Joel McHale special? How introduce your love for the Tiger King or your dislike for the Tiger King to the people? So.
Yeah, I watched the interview. Is that the interviews with the guy from Community?
Yep, the guy from Community, the brand new shows. Even Norm hasn't seen it. Mrs. Sheffield's going to have to pause it and come back. I can't believe Norm's not up to date. This was on Netflix, baby. It's right there.
There's a Louis Theroux as well. I didn't see. I haven't seen.
You keep saying that, but I don't know who that is.
You don't know who Louis
Tell
Theroux
people
is?
who he is.
He's this hilarious documentary dude, and Wibble Wobble. I've got to sort that camera up. Yeah, he does these amazing documentaries on. He's done the extreme sort of what they call the Westboro Baptist Church. He did Jimmy Savile. He's done all sorts of crazy sort of interviews. But yeah, he's done one with Tiger King as well.
Oh, excellent. We will have to check that out. That sounds cool.
Yeah, I must say the last couple of episodes, I was all Team Joe. But when I heard about the stuff like the pits of like tiger and big cat sort of skulls I thought, yeah, that's a bit hardcore. It sounds like he was a bit of a bastard, to be fair, but he is a funny guy. You know, on the surface, it's a great like documentary. You couldn't see any of the twists and turns. You know, anything that was coming. It's just been savage, like all the way through.
Yes, the after
yeah.
show was a little rougher on the animal abuse. It came out a lot more. Going to this chart of people, we kind of let's go ahead and go in order. Let's kind of break down what they said. But we will get to, I think that the last guy there, who turns out to be not from Hard Copy, but he was from Inside Edition, I want to say, but a classic TV tabloid type character there at the end. But let's start out with the first guy here, the guy with the long blonde hair out of Def Leppard, could have been in Led Zeppelin, but they wouldn't let him in. This guy was a zookeeper at Joe's ranch. Dan, what did you think of the follow-up interview with the zookeeper?
Oh, it was savage. He didn't like Joe, did he? I think, well, to be honest, none of them did. In the end, there were some real sort of hardcore stories, and even then, on the side coming out, additional things that weren't in the documentary. I suppose it's kind of like with Making a Murder. There was a lot of stuff that was missed out of the documentary that kind of made you lean a lot more, because if it was in there, you'd lean less towards sort of the dude. But no, I think he just ripped him apart, didn't he? He didn't like working for him.
This guy was a zookeeper, and one of the things he said in the after documentary is that the animals trusted him, and he kind of led the animals to Joe, and then Joe murdered the animals. There's a lot of talk about whether the animals were old, whether they had to be euthanized, or whether the animals were just, in their prime. The problem with owning tigers, we all know, is that they start out small and cute, then they get big and violent. So even for Joe with a zoo, you don't need too many large tigers that are just violent, and the amount of money it would take to feed them. We know in the show, Joe was using expired food from Walmart in a big truck to feed not only his staff, but also the tigers. So how many of these tigers can he support? How much money does he have to? Some people say that it was okay for him to euthanize the animals. I mean, bullets are efficient. Other people are saying, and as we got to in this documentary, some people were accusing Joe of killing randomly without reason, that he didn't like the animal or he was showing off. A lot of the videos of Joe, he clearly has a sidearm strapped to his leg. Part of that is responsibility. He's running a zoo. Some kid was getting eaten. I guess you'd have to shoot the alligator or whatever. But another part of that seems like showing off. Seems like this kind of cocky, I can kill all the animals, I'm the king of the world thing, which is not a good look, not good for the animals, and probably what the zookeeper was mad about is the separation of attitude. The zookeeper talked about his experience with the animals, the closeness, the looking in the eyes, the other kind of things, and just he had a very emotional thing. And it's interesting to say he's still working at the zoo. He's still working at the zoo under Jeff. This was another one of the guys where Joe had kind of picked all these down on his luck guys and gals to work at the zoo, so they had nowhere else to go. But on the same time, these people had a lot of responsibility. They're in charge of big cats. Some of them, I think the zookeeper, rose to this responsibility, took their job very serious, regardless of training or qualifications. They showed up and were serious about the best things for the cats. So I think that was good. So I think the zookeeper is an all right guy. I think he comes out good in the post documentary. He comes out good in the normal documentary. It was in the normal thing. It was a bit of a shift to see him go like kind of full hate on Joe. He did that interview outside of the courtroom where he really buried him in the public eye. And he did a similar interview, I assume, in the courtroom where he buried him in the court. Dan, what do you think? Was that a surprise? Like, because there wasn't so much animal abuse in the documentary until the very end. They kind of let it be silly and fun, and then I think they let out, the cat out of the bag. Bad pun.
Womp, womp, womp. I don't have one of those soundboard things. Yeah, so I think it seemed like there was a bit of a, that they were trying to hinge onto that attempted murder charge, or the murder conspiracy to murder charge, and then if I was to compare it, it's almost like, wasn't it Al Capone Like they're meant to get him for all these badass crimes, and then ended up getting him on like something else completely.
Tax evasion. Yeah.
Yes. So they, I think that they wanted to take him down, and they just there was anything that they could grab hold of. But certainly the guy with no legs, I can't remember his name now. Bloody hell. John Reinke, yeah, that's it, Reinke, John Reinke, or he basically ripped. He was like the most kind of, well, as Norm was saying, the most trustworthy, the one that was also kind of standing by Joe's side on quite a lot of it, I think. And
it still seemed like he was supporting Joe. I thought. You don't think that this guy here, moving on to this guy here, kind of the handyman of the zoo, like Dan said, again, a very bizarre story from the documentary. Spoilers, obviously. Something very strange happened to this man's legs. They started to quote unquote go bad. I don't know what that means, but he had them both replaced with little stumps. This is a similar story as to happen to this this lady here, or actually, sorry. Okay, she identifies as a gentleman, so I'm going to go with this gentleman here. It's very complicated. In the movie, they referred to her as a lady. So we were introduced to her as a lady, but in reality, this person wants to be a gentleman. But regardless, this lady gentleman had their arm ripped off by a tiger, then chose not to do 2 years of physical therapy, which would have cost money, would have embarrassed the zoo, would have been bad for the tigers, and instead had her arm chopped off, the rest of it chopped off, and then went back to work the next day at the zoo, where Joe wanted to make training videos and help videos using her horrible footage, which they showed part of, as an example. Dan, what do you think about both the strange legs and the strange stump?
I think that they're definitely a set of characters. I kind of got the impression with I can't remember. I've also got her name. I remember these names now. No, I forgot what her name is.
I mainly see them as
his name.
Even though I agree that they're certainly most
Saf. That's it. Saf's name.
They're people. They're people in their characters, but they're also archetypes at this point. We're talking metaphorically about the story. And yes, the story started out as real, but it was a documentary. It was a reality show, basically. It's not that real. I mean, it is. Parts of it are real, but yes, I think we're talking at a higher level. But yes, Saf, go ahead.
Yes. So, there were people online when you're reading into it saying that they thought that Saf was kind of, but not bullied into it, but or kind of pushed into sort of lopping his arm off. But I think in this follow-up interview, you didn't still see any kind of bad thoughts. She said he deserves to go to jail, but she didn't kind of have any animosity or kind of vengeance or vendetta against him. One thing that was interesting was I saw on Twitter that apparently this community went a bit mad because of Saf being misgendered. And Saf got interviewed on it and was like, "Oh, I don't care. It seems like people on the internet care for me," which I thought was quite funny.
That was interesting to see, and it was interesting just that watching the documentary, you had no idea, and they certainly never asked him about it or whatever, and it was a little confusing. I was a little confused. Certainly the dress and so forth that he chose to use, but no, very interesting character, and interesting to see that they still like Joe, that he still likes Joe. This guy mostly likes Joe. He feels sorry for him. This guy hates Joe, the zookeeper. And what about these people right here? I actually couldn't believe they got them for the follow-up documentary, but they got Jeff and Lauren. Jeff is kind of the godfather, gangsterous character who comes in and in a lot of ways takes the zoo away from Joe, uses his friend, the handyman, who is also allegedly the hitman, to send Joe to prison, and ends up with his zoo. So he was very defensive in his interview. Dan, what did you think of Joe's new interview here?
Jeff.
Or Jeff. Sorry, Jeff and Joe.
Jeff. Yeah, he's he obviously looked pretty bad in it, but I think he's the sort of guy that kind of seems like he'd be scrapping for any sort of limelight. The hired Ferrari, that sort of stuff. A lot of it was a facade, so he'd probably appreciate any limelights he can get. He's actually recently been saying in the press that Joe had sex with some of the tigers and the lions, which is interesting.
Hi-oh.
And And also that he also said that he would have sex with both of his both his husbands at the same time, so to avoid any jealousy. So he's definitely been he's been outside of all these documentaries, he's definitely trying to go to all the papers and get all the media attention he can.
Now, I also heard that he was wanted in Las Vegas. That thing he did where he was sneaking cubs into hotels in suitcases to then have private tiger parties in the hotel rooms. They don't like that. They're still looking for him. I think they actually canceled the warrant because of the coronavirus. But yeah, it was a surprise to see Jeff appear on this show. He was very defiant. He said the documentary had framed him and that he wasn't a bad guy and all this kind of thing. And his girl kind of sat there next to him and smiled and agreed with it all. So that was a very interesting part of this post Tiger King documentary. But let's move on now to the man in the front row here, probably loved by this audience. Give us a thumbs up and a share. I can't believe more people aren't here because we're going to talk about a libertarian hero, right? This guy, during the Tiger King documentary, he came out as one of the best people, I thought. He seemed very together. He seemed to both understand that Joe needed to go down, but also understand that Joe was an idiot. And he was also a witness to the horrifying suicide of Travis. But one of the things they focused on in this after documentary, I don't know if Joel McHale had ever met a libertarian before, because he waltzed right in there like it was nothing and asked him about the comment he said when he said, "Fuck the feds." Joel kind of tried to give him a way out, and he said, "Wow, you said that during the movie, and maybe you didn't know, it's going to be the biggest movie in the world, and everyone in the world would see you saying fuck the feds, including probably some employees at the IRS who may have a vendetta against you, so on and so forth. It's just not a good thing to say." But this guy, the campaign manager, in classic libertarian fashion, doubled and tripled down, saying fuck the feds over and over again in the documentary, shocking poor Joel McHale and all of his Hollywood left-wingism, or whatever you want to say. Even if he seems like a middle-of-the-road guy, he's not a fuck the feds guy. Dan, what did you think of fuck the feds and his performance in the documentary?
He's a legend. He definitely he comes off as the most sane person out of the lot of them. And yeah, I just think he again, like some of the rumors that he was saying, again, outside of the actual documentary, was that there was a bit of animal kind of cruelty going on, but largely it seemed like, I think he did feel sorry for Joe. He just kind of realized that he was a bit of a crazy idiot, just like the limelight, and just wanted to be a bit special. And I think that he did know that sort of Joe had a love for the Tigers that wasn't just about the money.
It was also interesting to have it revealed that this guy, we're not talking out of school here, but that he was also a homosexual. I didn't really catch that in the documentary, and they asked him if Joe ever hit on him, and he said Joe was interested in much younger men. According to the documentary, and again, spoilers, shocking documentary, it seemed that Joe was actually interested in younger straight men. Very strange for a gay man to be interested in, but to each his own, and so on. What a documentary. What a documentary. Just incredible characters. Also, I want to shout out to this gentleman. He does not use meth. He was very upset that he was bunched in with the other meth people. He had never used meth, and I believe him. Seems like a straightforward libertarian guy. So respect to fuck the feds. As they're saying in the chat, Jennifer says, fuck the feds is actually middle of the road. That was so surprising that, Joel was an interesting host on this. He was a bit out of place. He's an actor from Community and other things. But yeah, he was very taken aback by fuck the feds. And it was interesting to see him go over it and try to just get it through his head that, yes, sorry, Joel, there are a lot of people in this country that don't like the government and are willing to say so. They don't care about the results. Norm says in the chat, he says it's not a surprise. Gay men's favorite guys are straight guys. It's every gay guy's fantasy to turn a straight man gay. So it may be something that Norm knows about, that the old Tiger King was into. But I think that goes well to our next person to talk about on this show.
They've got very similar dress sense.
Indeed. So here he is, right here in the middle. He's got a new hat. He's unfortunately not smiling for this picture, but this is the man with new teeth. This was one of Joe's husbands on the show. And during the show, he appeared only shirtless with tattoos, which he said was a problem because it was quite cold. But he had said to Joel during the post interview that he wanted to show them off. He had a lot of the tattoos and wanted to show them off. Also, he was upset that people were mad about the quality of his tattoo artist. He had a tattoo above his crotch. I want to say that it said, would it say property of Joe Exotic? Something like that, Dan? Something. It was very...
Yeah, I think it's something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was the kind of tattoo you want to get removed when you get a divorce or when you become straight again and run away with the secretary, as this character did. Again, just the most amazing documentary.
That was his husband, Joseph Passage.
Joseph Passage, yes, one of the first ones. And
so I hear that he was in a relationship for 18 years with Joseph's Passage.
But anyway, he had the tattoo above his crotch covered up. And as you can see during the documentary, it didn't really cover it up. There were pieces of the words still there. It was even maybe readable. The guy says that more work was done. The tattoo was not finished. And I assume that they've better covered up property of Joe Exotic. But also we want to report on this guy that he had his teeth fixed. They look great. And while he did have problems with meth in the past, he's been clean for a long time. And he also wanted America to know that, and he was upset. A lot of the characters in this show were upset to be associated with meth, even though some of them had done it in the past. So, Dan, what else did you take from this interesting follow-up interview?
I think James, the guy that ended up chopping everyone to the FBI, I think it was John Reich that called him a walking Chucky doll. I thought that was pretty funny.
That was the large man on the jet ski who was friends with Jeff and who helped rat out Joe and may have led to the whole trial. A lot of this murder for hire seems based on Joe saying crazy things, which again, if you were going to say these crazy things, you'd think you'd be the least likely to do the murder for hire, the least likely to actually follow through with it. It's fine to say crazy things all the time as long as you don't follow through with it. And that's where Joe got into trouble, allegedly giving $3,000 to the handyman for a $5,000 hit, which Doc in the show said hits cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. You got a very bad deal. And it turns out mainly he got framed for the hit. But yes, not a lot of people thought that Joe could have a successful hit or would really hurt Carol. Like, he just said it a lot. He was certainly obsessed with her and so on and so forth, but I'm not sure
another highlight
sticks well.
Another highlight for me was when he was doing his campaign, Joe Exotic was, and he he had pictures of himself on condoms, and he was just handing them out to the crowds, like kids like sat there with them with Joe's face on a condom, and like mothers looking horrified.
These are special water balloons.
Yeah.
Slimy. Yes, the Crazy. Joe for president. And it was also kind of revealed in this documentary, I don't know if they talked about it in the last one, there's a major possible campaign finance issue with the Joe for president campaign. It seems like the zoo, maybe even some of Jeff's money or what would have been Jeff's money, helped to finance that campaign, producing the condoms and the other advertisements. So I don't. That's all alleged. But
87,000, I think.
It's one of those things when you've been put down for alleged murder and for Tiger murder and for all this other stuff. When you're like, well, I guess the campaign finance violation doesn't really matter that much. But I suppose if you're a stickler for those kind of things, you're like, and you broke the campaign finance law. Damn you. So. But yeah, it was a nice follow-up interview with this gentleman in the middle here. Finally, on to the last interview we're going to talk about today. I think this is one of the most heartbreaking interviews in the piece. The Inside Edition guy, the classic newsman, the man who lost his first documentary because he didn't have backups, and the place caught on fire, destroying all of the footage of what would have been, no doubt, an amazing and years earlier Joe Exotic reality show. He helped produce the Joe Exotic online TV stuff, all of that. And really, in this documentary, he came out as the one who hit you in the feels. He saw early animal abuse of Joe, and he didn't report it. And you could tell from the way the guy was talking, this was a major lifetime regret, that he felt bad that he violated his character, he violated his journalistic integrity. He got caught up in the story, probably the dollar signs in his eyes. He was going to be these Netflix guys just years earlier. He had found this maniac. He had filmed the maniac. He was right at the finish line of the documentary about the maniac. And I don't know when the first abuse occurred. It sounded like early in the process, but he put that abuse to the side and focused on his documentary, and he feels bad forever about it. Dan, what do you think of the Inside Edition journalists interview?
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? Because he put so much work into it, and he sort of has his idea of who burnt it down, and whoever burnt it down, they're all pretty close, so he should be pretty pissed off about it. But it seems like ultimately he's done kind of okay. He hasn't lost all the fact that someone else has covered it and it's gone Mental Global. I'm sure he's got interviews and stuff, maybe some other opportunities, so I think the glass is half full for him.
I also think he probably owns some copyright on the Joe Exotic TV stuff. Maybe he got some kickbacks, some royalties. Maybe he can sell whatever he's got left in the future. Also, it sounded like he was doing very well. I think he was in Norway or Finland or something, and he said the people there knew about it and everyone talked about it, and that he was there with a very lovely lady. And I'm rooting for him. It sounded good. And also just the feelings that he had for the Tigers and for his mistake of not reporting it. I think it was very honest and very brave of him to tell the people that. So I think we're running out of Tiger King people to talk about.
Just want to add.
Go ahead.
Just want to add quickly. So the odds on if they make a film, if they make the film would be amazing. So just to go for a quick short list of some of the people, there was on the list. There was so Joe Exotic. We've got that guy there. I didn't. Who's he? I've got a different list here. I've got
I don't know.
Kevin Bacon.
These are just various options of what people think might work. But go ahead.
Kevin Bacon, Billy Bob Thornton, or Edward Norton. Those would be quite interesting. They've put Carol, Melissa McCarthy, maybe because of the craziness. John Reich, Matthew McConaughey. I think he was pretty stoked about that if he was played by Matthew McConaughey. David Spade, yeah, I could see that for Joe. John Finlay, Shia LaBeouf.
It's right here. Yep, they got that one.
Who else? Saf, Johnny Tsunami, or Ken Jeong. Rick, Billy Bob Thornton. Rick's the podcast guy. And then Dylan Passage, Zac Efron.
Aha! So it's going to be a star-studded affair if there is a Tiger King movie. I like this. They're saying Carol Baskin could be played by I forget her name right now, but from Saturday Night Live, the only funny person on Saturday Night Live. She's in all the movies, but she's great. She would be fantastic. She's a chameleon on that Saturday Night Live. She's amazing. But yes, the Tiger King movie is going to be fantastic. It's a big twist between David Spade or Brad Pitt, right? If you go with Joe Exotic, the beautiful, or Joe Exotic, the Joe Dirt. And a lot of it, you have to lean towards Dirt on this, right? Because you got to think Tiger King certainly saw the movie Joe Dirt, was probably a big fan of it, might have even shaped part of his character after David Spade's famous character, Joe Dirt. So I would lean towards more Joe Dirt than Brad Pitt. How about you, Dan? Where are you going? And tell us in the chat, are you for Joe Dirt or Brad Pitt?
I think I'd go Joe Dirt, but I'm pretty sure that I did see that someone had done a kind of Kevin Bacon makeover, and that looked quite convincing.
We also have it here in the chat. They're saying Margot Robbie could play Joe Exotic because she's amazing. She could do anything, right? So, and I think they're trying to say that her face looks like his face already with this side-by-side comparison. Obviously, Margot Robbie, a beautiful woman in Wolf of Wall Street, the Harley Quinn movies, Birds of Prey, and Suicide Squad, those kind of things. But again, she's amazing. She can do anything. Maybe she could do Joe Exotic. Let's see. That's the side by side of Spade and Pitt. Tiger King podcast host wants Margot Robbie. John Finlay says he wants Shia LaBeouf. So that's the guy right here with the tattoos and the teeth. So he would be an interesting pick. But yes, the movies, they're working well ahead on casting the show. People want a Tiger King movie. People are way into this documentary. I see people in the chat haven't watched it yet. It's never too late to watch Tiger King. Certainly, we warned you about spoilers many times at the beginning of this show. So, but it's a great documentary, even if you kind of know what's going to happen. In our last episode, we went through a more detailed breakdown of the entire show. So if you want to go back and watch that, it's a little while back, but it'll be there on the playlist too if you check the World Crypto Network. Let's see. We could try the news. Dan, do you want to bother with the news? All right, we'll look at some news.
Bit of news.
Okay, so last time on the news was a long time ago, April 12th. We talked about the Red Dawn emails, the scientists and the insiders who warned us about the coronavirus crisis, but who were ignored. And I read lots of these emails out loud. Maybe too much. So let's see. The bailout, the airline companies are going to fire all their employees, even though they got bailed out. So that's not great. Let's see. They want to test things on the blockchain. Wouldn't that be cool? 43 people fall ill at a Pentecostal church revival. 10 of them tested positive for the coronavirus. So stay out of the churches. Let's worship from home. Don't seem to be getting any.
Doth not protect.
Yeah, there seems to be no protection there. The World Health Organization says 70 coronavirus vaccines are in development globally, with 3 already being tested in human trials. So there's some positive news for you. There's that. Trump's supply chain task force, heavily influenced by Kushner, has been dubbed the children inside FEMA headquarters, according to NBC News. Task force leaders pushed aside the existing response teams. Instead, they first reached out to personal contacts. So just not a good look. You have nepotism kind of running the country, and the FEMA people themselves calling them the children. So that's not great. Shout out to Victoria. She's having a sale on her online book. You can get it on Amazon. It's called Truth Decay, How Bitcoin Fixes This. So check it out. You used to be able to get it for 99 pence. That's just under £1. So check that out. Shout out to Victoria. We talked about how other countries had success by declaring emergencies earlier, but Japan is having success that's failed. They're having to reclose schools and to re-lock down people. So keeping an eye on it. We talked about hydroxychloroquine. Looks like tests have been halted in Brazil after coronavirus patients taking a higher dose developed irregular heartbeats, increasing their risk of fatal arrhythmia. So in large doses, it doesn't sound like hydroxychloroquine is a good idea. Let's see, we're searching for viruses and treatments. Many drugs that we believed were fantastic ended up killing people. It is so hard to keep explaining that. So yes, drugs need to be tested. That's why we test them.
They are tested drugs, so they're repurposed. That's the point, is that they've already been tested on humans, and so we know about the side effects. I think the only bit that's kind of less tested is the specific side effects in relation to COVID and how that treats the body. But they are they are tested drugs because they're just repurposed.
Well, we should use them for what they're for, and then we'll see how it goes. The Pope is endorsing universal basic income. This isn't a big surprise, especially with this Pope. But this may be the time, he says, to consider a universal basic wage. Be a good solution. We've even heard Republicans are saying they might give the American people $2,000 a month. We don't know when or for how long, but that would be a more regular UBI instead of the $1,200 payment that they just randomly gave everyone. The president retweeted a post calling for the government's top infectious disease specialist to be fired after the doctor acknowledged that shutting down the country earlier could have saved lives. There's quite a lot of excitement as they were worried about Dr. Fauci being fired, as it says here, after he did most certainly crossed the president on one of the nightly shows, saying that, yes, we could have done more if we stopped early. So pretty obvious. Fauci was not fired, however, which was good. Senator Tom Tillis is trying to sue the Internet Archive and getting them to shut down their emergency library. Basically, during these trying times, the Internet Archive launched an emergency reading library because so many real-world libraries are closed and people don't have access to books. You could download lots of books and borrow them from the Internet Archive without restrictions. Usually they have restrictions on the books. Tom Tillis, senator, doesn't want people to read during the crisis, so he's attacking the Internet Archive. That's lousy. As Bill Kristol, this is a conservative, very conservative Bill Kristol. As evidence he wasn't behind the curve on the coronavirus, Trump likes to cite his end of January China ban. But this is damning, not exculpatory. For if Trump realized there was a real problem at the end of January, why did he do almost nothing for the whole month of February?
He played golf.
He played golf. It wasn't nothing. He warned people that it was nothing. That helped too. But yes,
no, they did do some other stuff because he made a cool video about it, where he's like,
just can't get enough of those videos. So apparently there's 3 ventilators in Africa. Sierra Leone has 13 ventilators. Central African Republic has 3 ventilators. Liberia has 3 ventilators. South Sudan has 4 ventilators. So Africa is going to need our help. Positive news, I have heard President Trump talking about this mainly when he's bragging that we have too many ventilators and that we've always had too many ventilators and that we've always been at war with East Asia, never at war against Eurasia, and all that kind of stuff. But maybe he'll do something good with those extra ventilators. Maybe we can help Africa. It's not too late, but it's going to be too late very soon. We had some Bitcoin-related news. Craig Wright dropped his lawsuit against Adam Back and offered to pay all legal costs. Usually they only have to pay half the legal costs. This was a surprise for Craig Wright to pay all legal costs. Adam Back, they were unable to locate Adam Back. He was not in the United Kingdom. No one knows where Adam Back is. The lawsuit is still continuing, I guess, against HODLNOT and Peter McCormick, who might actually live in the UK, where Craig filed the lawsuit.
I'm pretty sure I saw Calvin Ayre retweet something saying, I'm sure they said they're going to drop the HODLNOT one as well, so they're just going to focus on Peter McCormack. I may have seen that.
What a thing. And he didn't even have to be involved in that. For those of you who don't remember, he went out after that. He wanted to be included. He gave Craig Wright his address publicly on Twitter and said, basically, sue me. Because, you know, it was good press. So I guess it's still good press. I guess he's still doing really well, even if he's paying expensive legal fees, which seems like the reason that you wouldn't post your address on the internet and insult a psychopath who has lots of money. An alleged psychopath, alleged psychopath.
But man, like the kudos that he's going to get from the Bitcoin community if he takes down Craig Wright is, you know, it is going to be incredible. And no matter what,
yeah, but it seems like HODLNOT took
find
down.
It hard not to
I think
him.
HODLNOT took down Craig Wright. I don't think he needed Peter McCormick's help at all. I think it was already happening. I think Adam Back was being sued. The anonymous HODLNOT was being sued, and people were rightfully donating to his legal defense fund. When this third guy suddenly jumped in there and got himself sued, and then we needed another legal defense fund, and it kind of seemed like we were duplicating our efforts. I'm not sure that we really gained by having a third person on this lawsuit. I think we're going to find out that Craig Wright is not Satoshi anyway. So let's keep going. Still no signs of voter fraud, but we've got lots of voter suppression, as Wisconsin is keeping missing ballots from being counted in an election, and the Supreme Court of Wisconsin shut down absentee balloting early so that we could count less votes. So that's good. Update on Donald Trump's friend We have a sad update on Donald Trump's friend, who he mentioned several times during the coronavirus conferences. Stanley Chera, real estate mogul and friend of Donald Trump, is dead at 78 from the coronavirus. This is very sad. A man's life has been lost. He had a family. He had a wife. Donald Trump talked about her. She was also infected with the virus. But as we've seen so often in this, women live, men die. So Mr. Stanley Chera died. Donald Trump gave a little speech about him. Sadly, although he did look pained and distressed that he could no longer call his friend on the phone, the nicest thing that Donald Trump could think to say about him was that he was very excited when his friend Donald Trump was elected president. So shout out to Stanley Chera, a very good friend to Donald Trump, I suppose. The U.S. may face 18 months of rolling shutdowns. This is a lot more of the reality that we were trying to give you here on this show, the reality that you might not like. We're going to win this virus. Humanity is going to win. We're going to get a vaccine. We're going to kill it. But it's going to take longer than you think, and it's probably going to result in these kind of open and closing shutdowns, these shutdowns that go up and down. So just get ready for that. Let's be on the right side of that. Let's not be caught unaware, because even if they're opening things up, the virus is still out there, and you don't want to get it. I don't want to get it. Interesting article about the president and the plague. Big cartoon here. Trump viewed this pandemic not as a great humanitarian challenge, not as an opportunity to use his power to save the lives of Americans, but as an invisible germ that would infect his re-election and color him a loser. Let's see. The Litecoin Foundation has acted as the executive producer for a new horror flick. So, remember when you gave money to the Litecoin Foundation and they were supposed to do the good improvement of Litecoin, and instead they spend it on a UFC ad because all the UFC people are into Litecoin? Well, now they're producing a horror movie. So I don't know what they're doing over at the Litecoin Foundation, but we've got this classic gif from Hot Shots of Lloyd Bridges cleaning out his ears. So
is the horror movie going to be about December 2017?
It's going to be about the crash of Litecoin and the fact that no one uses Litecoin. It seems unlikely that the horror movie is not going to be Litecoin related at all. So
wow. If they're making a horror movie, I think they should get my mum involved, because she phoned me in late December to tell me that she'd bought Litecoin at like $280 or something. So
she's the one. She's the one they're making the film for. But yes, thanks to everyone for contributing to the Litecoin Foundation so they can produce more horror movies. The CEO of PayPal was on MSNBC, and I caught it. He was talking about the growth in digital payments and how great it was that they offer 3 to 4% on international remittance. I think you and I know Bitcoin can do better. But remember, in this market, Western Union is more like 10 to 12%. So PayPal is actually offering people a pretty good deal. And they are fulfilling the promise of online international commerce and banking, just not as well as I think Bitcoin will and could.
Let's be honest, it's massively usable, and I still use it, well, pretty much daily for purchases. So they've got quite a good, foothold in the market, and it's a service that's international. They've got good protection. Sometimes you can get caught out if you get an annoying buyer or seller or something on eBay, but for now, it's pretty usable. Just a shame they're not accepting Bitcoin.
Well, we do want to open this show up to calls if you guys want to call in. Let me see if I can find the graphics. I have all these scenes now, and so many of them are graphics. So let's see. There's the background image, but now you can't see anything else. Aha! The foreground. So you can call us now. Let me get the phone number for the chat. Dan, what is your backdrop? Change it back. Call now at 1-518-600-1949, or on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. We've got about 15 viewers watching us. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. If it's first time here, you can subscribe down below. But you can just call now and join in. Otherwise, we're going to keep going with the news. But if you'd like, you could call us during the news, and we'll talk to you about what's going on. Let us know what's going on in your neck of the woods with the virus. Are you still staying inside? Have you been at the beach this whole time? Do you live in Florida? Would you prefer to be at the beach? But let's
Who's your favorite Tiger King?
Who's your favorite Tiger King people? Yeah, definitely. Ask us about Tiger King. We'll go back and talk about it. But yes, the number's in the chat. It's on the screen. You guys can give us a call. Otherwise, we're going to keep going. Balaji is talking about it's insane that physical businesses are being killed by fiat. It's the forced finale to the retail apocalypse. It was decades to digitize. Now it's cloud or die. And they're saying that Walmart, Costco, and Target are being banned from selling non-essential items such as clothing and electronics in part of the U.S. I saw a similar story out of France where they'd actually shut down Amazon temporarily to begin to attempt to comply with the laws. Likely someone is going through the entire Amazon catalog right now and marking things whether or not they're essential. So yes, books and TVs and video games and other things are probably non-essential, yet these Amazon, Costco, other workers are risking their lives to get them out during the virus. One would think people would just have restraint and not order a bunch of garbage during the crisis, but we are stuck at home and we are consumers, so I imagine we ordered a lot of garbage. So
yeah, you must have ordered stuff.
Mainly food. Not that many extra items, not to excess, but you do get bored. You have nothing to do. You are going to do some online shopping, I imagine. And Amazon, again, their stock is through the roof. That's what we really should have bought.
as long as they can support social distancing in their kind of warehouses and stuff, and they follow clean safety rules, then surely they should be allowed to operate. And I've seen some of the pictures of where supermarkets have just used a tape or whatever to close off an aisle, and you could, even though you could just lean and buy that product, they're just not letting you buy
part
it.
Of this is common sense, though. Like, I'm not really going to the store and trying on clothes. It's not really a normal time. I'm not thinking, hey, I could get a new jacket, or hey, I'd look great in that hat, or it's not really. It has kind of a flippancy to the reality that these people are staying open so you can get food. Like, that's really what it's about. Like, as much as I like TV and everyone else in America loves TV, you don't really need a new one right now. I guess suppose you could tell the guy a sob story that your TV broke and it fell off the wall and you need one. But the other reality of that is Amazon would just deliver one to your house anyway. It is interesting.
Next time to upgrade.
Time to upgrade. Well, I've got it going on right here in my neighborhood across the street. It's an absolute riot. And it's probably an essential. They probably need it. But it looks like the neighbors are upgrading their air conditioning. And they've got 2 or 3 technicians going in and out of their house. And I'm sure these technicians are nice guys, but if they went to like 10 other jobs that week, you're sharing germs and diseases with 10 other people this week. You've increased your chances of getting the virus. So air conditioning is vital and important in Vegas. And if theirs was broken and truly, truly broken, then they should replace it and upgrade it. But it looks like it's more of a unscheduled update. So we had the other guys down the street. They were getting their cars detailed. A lot of people are not really taking this seriously.
I hope you'll be reporting them to the authorities.
Oh, of course. No. Again, libertarian rights, man. If they want to get all germy and sick, it's fine. But the problem is if they infest the whole neighborhood and then we all get sick, and if they go to the grocery store and they get the grocery store clerk sick, which is probably a possibility because they haven't stocked up because they don't plan anything. So, yeah, it's really the least among us. It's a chain that is only as strong as its weakest link. And that's true all the time, like not just during the pandemic. It's only during the pandemic that we can see it, that our blindness is removed. But everybody hopes to be blind again soon. We're hoping the Michael Jordan documentary will distract us. I hear there's 2 versions. There's one version with cussing, and there's one version without cussing. I hope to watch the cussing version. Let's see. We got lots and lots of news. We need to go faster. Hang on, Dan. They say totally natural and believable, the blue line of China. They never got above 100,000 cases. It's so convenient. Scientists knew the pandemic was coming. The civil servants knew the government wasn't prepared. Neither could make the politicians listen. More about those 4 to 8 weeks that we lost and how there's going to be lots of books written about them. Let's do the impossible today. I shared some beautiful images of the Sagrada Familia, the most incredible church in Europe. It's in Barcelona. It was created by the architect Gaudí. And it's just incredible. Still under construction, not finished during his lifetime. Stained glass added later. Sagrada Familia. It's great. So we started making the World Crypto Network little live videos here, nice short ones. They're warning people about hydroxychloroquine. New York reports a 400% increase in cardiac arrests. Both drugs are approved for other medications and can be prescribed without informed consent. So they are warning people about hydroxychloroquine, especially larger doses. Shout out to the McLaughlin Group, continuing to work during this crisis. It's pretty funny. They're actually doing online episodes at home, just like the Bitcoin Group. So we're kind of exactly on the same level with them and the same level with say Conan O'Brien or Stephen Colbert, any of those guys. Everybody's doing shows from home. It's been fun to watch that roll out. Did a lot more shows here. Trump was on TV and the reporters started asking him direct questions. They said, "What did you do in February? What did you do in February?" It was getting pretty intense. Of course, Trump won't admit that he's made a single mistake during the course of the coronavirus response. More than 23,000 Americans have died, more than any other country. He said that nobody is asking for ventilators, which even the guy who does the clips was like, this is a big, big lie. So that's bad. He played a North Korea-style propaganda movie in the White House. He had dramatic music and headlines. A lot of people say it looks just like a campaign ad. This is during the briefing where you're supposed to get your vital information about the coronavirus. So that's an interesting way to go, right? He said that it would be absurd for him to consider recommending social distancing before Americans started dying. Who wants to explain to him what models are for? And obviously, no, you have to have the preventative measures in before people start dying. Otherwise, the disease is already spread. You're not preventing anything. It's already done.
Was that specific speech the one where at the end of it he says, I know models, but not those type. So I know models well, but not that type of model.
Sadly, this isn't the model speech, but that is what he said the last time they tried to talk to him about statistical models. So they didn't really get very far. Again, the attention span sometimes just isn't there. Interesting side note, it took 4 years, but they just got some new classified CIA reports studying the Soviet Union's use of black magic, telepathic mind control, and psychotronic generators, devices they said turned people into psychics and let them move objects with their minds. So this is pretty wild, right? Some replies are hidden by the author. Okay. So yes, this is... Certain U.S. research suggests it may be possible to use paranormal abilities for military or intelligence purposes. This is pretty much Men Who Talk to Goats or whatever is that movie. Men who can control goats with their mind.
Goats.
Stare at goats. Men who stare at goats. It's pretty much that right here in a real document. As it says here, about 1969, the Soviets reported established an official group in their covert program devoted to collecting information on black magic, identifying and locating and evaluating the capability of sorcerers, witches, and incantations used by such individuals. It doesn't seem like it created any paranormal systems. They may have improved their techniques to training subjects. Research may still be included in the Soviet program. In 1979, Soviet research apparently began to move away from remote viewing and focus extensively on behavior modification, subliminal suggestion, and electromagnetic effects of psychological behavior. In addition, a significant amount of study was devoted to the development of psychotronic generators used to duplicate psychic effects. A small handheld instrument at the Institute of Radio Electronics and Engineering in Moscow which was able to move pieces of paper on a table across the room from the person holding the device, like a fan. The experiment was valid because it had been carried out under extremely rigid scientific and controlled conditions. Ongoing work in the remote, and there's still even some blackouts here. So that's pretty weird. Being able to move pieces of paper from across the room. I guess you could destroy like a treaty with that. They would be about to sign the treaty, and you'd be like, "No!" I don't know.
I think it sounds like it's more like one of those things where they're bullshitting because they're like, obviously, because that stuff doesn't exist. But back in the day, they probably like did a bit of a trick show thing, like one of those organized seances, and they had a load of plans there, and like they let it, the spy think that the US spy think that they could do all sorts of crazy stuff. So that kind of sounds quite believable. One of those underhand kind of tricks.
Well, this is the intelligence agency that instead of making more missiles, they put mirrors around the missiles, making it look like they had more missiles. So maybe they wanted to have the CIA waste their time investigating black magic, and there's really nothing there. They're talking in the chat about some interesting stuff. I'm not sure I'm catching it all. Something about Garry Kasparov and portals. I definitely agree with the chat. Kasparov, the chess championship, a bit of a politician in Russia as well, certainly knows a lot. I don't know what he knows about portals, but he's been putting out a lot of good information about the rise of, corporatism or fascism or whatever you want to call it in the U.S. and how to stop it, and that he sees a lot of parallels with what's going on here to what happened in his own country. So very interesting stuff in Kasparov. I would check that out. So there we go. Very strange report on Soviet mind control. Good enough to get us out of place here, and I'll try to rewind. Dan, what do you think? You're going to watch Men Who Stare at Goats again now that it's real?
It was a good film. I can't remember much about it, but I do remember it being a good film.
I remember it had Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think Obi-Wan Kenobi was in it.
Oh, what the Ewan McGregor?
Yep, Ewan McGregor.
Yeah. I do remember it, but very, very barely.
All right,
what actually happens? I know that they've like the old school experiment. They're meant to be able to do telepathy and stuff like that. In fact, don't spoil it. I'll watch it again.
I just remember that it's George Clooney and it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it's all about like if they have the power to control goats or to kill goats from other rooms, and CIA programs and all that kind of thing. So looks like quite a lot happened in the news. Trying to get back to where we were. We were going to try to go faster, but that doesn't seem like it's going to work. There's just too much news.
You tweet a lot of Trump stuff.
That's a lot happening, man. It's an exciting period of history. Here we go. They got into magic through CIA disclosure. Angry Trump turns briefing into propaganda session. The CNN chyrons are starting to get really good. They're not holding anything back like they used to. They used to say lies, or they would say white lies, or they would just sort of dance around it. But now, propaganda session. California, Oregon, and Washington have made a Western States Pact in which they will work together on joint efforts to reopen the economy on the West Coast. Many people are heralding this as the first step towards the breakdown of the United States of America. So let's keep this in mind. This is a major point. Trump has been saying that it's all up to the states, and it's all up to the states, and the states might be getting tired of the federal government. We've seen similar pacts form in the South and in the Northeast to try to reopen without the federal government, simply on their own. Scott Dworkin writes, Trump's having a complete mental breakdown on live television, even more than usual. It was quite an incredible briefing. They followed up who produced the propaganda video that they played. It turns out that it was made by Trump's own employees at the White House, which is a violation of the Hatch Act and a violation of campaign finance reform. You have to pay for something like that through the campaign. You can't use White House money. But just like Joe Exotic, this is, trying to catch Al Capone with tax evasion or whatever I was saying earlier. He did everything right. He's all powerful. He's having a complete and utter narcissistic breakdown. And then this lady gets up and starts asking him questions, and she won't take it. She asked him about what did you do in February. Let's go ahead and play the clip. Everyone loves a good Trump clip. Again, YouTube, this is fair use. This is news footage and commentary discussing the state of affairs in our world.
The argument is that you bought yourself some time and you didn't use it to prepare hospitals. You didn't use it to ramp up testing. Right now,
you're so disgraceful. It's so disgraceful the way you said it. Let me just listen. I just went over it.
To make people
I just went over
in
it.
an unprecedented crisis.
Nobody thought we should do it, and when I did it.
But what did you do with the time that you bought?
You know
the
we
month
did.
of February. That
We did.
Was a gap.
What do you do?
Month of February.
What do you do when you have no case in the whole United States?
You had cases
when
in February.
excuse me, you reported it. 0 cases, 0 deaths on January 17th.
February, the entire
January.
month of
I said in
January. Your video
January.
has a complete gap.
On January 30th.
What did your administration do in February with the time that your travel ban bought
A
you?
lot.
What?
A lot. And in fact, we'll give you a list. What we did, in fact, part of it was up there. We did a lot. Look. You know you're a fake. You know that. Your whole network, the way you cover it, is fake. And most of you, and not all of you, but the people are wise to you. That's why you have a lower approval rating than you've ever had before.
Not answering the question.
Probably 3.
Not providing the list. Where is the list?
Why didn't Biden
He's
Biden
not
apologize?
president.
Why did
This is, again, distraction, deflection. It's pathetic, and it's just not very smart. He didn't do anything in February. It's a big problem. Like, this is going to keep coming up, guys. This 4 to 8 weeks where Trump doesn't do anything. Like, there's no way around it. Like, obviously, as he says there, he knew it was a big problem. He closed down China. So what do you do next? What's your next step?
If Fauci was even recommending that people should go on cruises and not alter their lives by early March, surely, you know, Fauci's a very respected person. If
Early March, we're talking about February. I'm sorry. February.
Yeah,
entire month.
No, so I'm
4
saying,
weeks.
So even
4
by
weeks,
even by
entire month.
So even by March,
we know
Fauci
from the internal emails what they were really saying. We know what they're saying on the inside. We know the advice and the information he was getting. We know it's different from the outside. He continued to golf. He continued to say it was a hoax. We can bring up the clips again. There's a missing 4 to 8 weeks. Books are going to be written about it. We already have their emails. We can go to the last episode. I played their emails. I read their emails out loud. The doctors are like, I can't believe this shit. No one's listening to us. I spent my whole fucking life learning science, and now they won't listen to us, and thousands of people are going to die. It's right there in the chats. So, yes, he's blaming Obama. He's blaming Biden. He's desperate. He's blaming anyone. And all you have to do is take the blame yourself. You say, we screwed up in those 4 to 8 weeks, and we're going to turn it around now. And everyone would say, oh, my God, we're with you. Like, I'm sorry you screwed up. Like, let's move on. But he can't do it. He can't take blame for anything. It's a bad look. There's 4 to 8 weeks missing there. Missing time. It's not going anywhere. Major hospitals' medical staff accepted homemade masks today because they're desperate for them. This is the case at countless hospitals. But President Trump says we have lots of gear that we're doing just fine. He says, what provision in the Constitution gives the president power to open or close state economies? He says numerous provisions. We can give you a legal brief if you want. He never names one. This is just like the evidence that he didn't give us on voter fraud. It's one of those classic things you say, hey, check back with me afterwards. I'll get it to you. And then you never get it to them. Then at this same press briefing, he said, when somebody is president, their authority is total. It's total. It's total, which is even further than Nixon. Nixon said, if the president does it, it's not illegal, which was quite a stretch in itself, saying that the president is above the law. But it's even further to claim total authority, as the president did on April 13th last week, saying that he will decide when the states open. Windmill cancer survivor says, the first reporter to simply stand up and ask Trump, what the fuck is wrong with you, should win a Pulitzer Prize. That was pretty strong. And not just because of the yellow background. President's authority is total. And then a reporter said, you said the president's authority is total. That is not true. Trump said, "We are going to write up a paper on this." The journalist said, "Who told you this?" He says, "Enough." Again, he can't answer these questions. I know you guys love this guy and everything, but this failure to be able to answer these questions, inventing this imaginary total authority, like if this was a Democrat, if this was Obama saying he had total authority, how would you think about it? You have to understand things on the other feet. Like they're saying here, the reporters are all checking it. They're like, yeah, that's not true. It's in the Constitution, the 10th Amendment. All powers not declared in this document are reserved for the states. That's a paraphrase, but you know what I'm saying. He told them his authority is total. Authority is total. Okay, let's go ahead and hear it.
Just be very specific.
Be very specific. I'm
your
king.
Understanding of your authority vis-a-vis governors. Just be very specific. For instance, if a governor issued a stay-at-home
When you
order,
say my authority, the president's authority, not mine, because it's not me. This is when somebody's the president of the United States, the authority is total. And that's the way it's got to be.
your authority is total.
It's total. It's total. And the governors know that.
Reporter can't even believe
Now
it.
you have a couple of bands of excuse me. You have a couple.
Could you rescind that order?
King is talking.
You
King
have
is
a couple
talking
of
here.
bands of Democrat governors, but they will agree to it. They will agree to it. But the authority of the President of the United States having to do with the subject we're talking about is total.
Mr. Vice President, clarify your understanding of
Total authority. So actually he doesn't. He can't reopen the states. He can close the states as a protective order, but he can't force them to reopen. It's complicated. He says he's going to write up papers on this, and everyone's repeating it. And they asked Pence if they think Trump's power is total. Pence begins hedging on the president's emergency authority, ignoring the man with no clothes who has already declared himself king. Pence says he supports the president's leadership under the national emergency declaration he signed. Again, he's just dodging this question. This was a major break. As you can see, all the reporters are talking here. Emily Brandwein writes in, "You can hear Pence clearly. The acoustics are good up Trump's ass." That was nice. A little jab there. So yes, it's not true. The president doesn't have total authority. Mike Pence and the cabinet could end this right now with the 25th Amendment. They may be committing treason by not doing so. After the election, Pence and the other enablers, they might rot in solitary confinement alongside Trump for the rest of their lives. He yelled at the reporter, said it was enough when she questioned his total authority. Trump melts down in angry response to reports he ignored virus warnings.
Those CNN those like prompts were hilarious. Someone was having a right wobbler on the CNN desk.
Well,
they're in 2 minutes.
They're going for it. They're writing things as they are now. They're not holding anything back. They're using words like propaganda and so on and so forth. They are way into it. Let's see what else is. Everyone's just can't believe it that Trump declared himself a dictator on live TV. People are just commenting on this. They can't believe it. This guy says tonight's briefing was an unhinged meltdown, arguably the worst public behavior by an American president ever. Trump's thin skin and inability to acknowledge inconvenient truths was on full and ugly display. Meltdown, that's the word. Ugly meltdown. And again, they're just quoting again the total authority. Shocking. And again, even someone like myself that's not a big fan of the president was saying, we got to get him off the stage. Oh, we got to get him down. Like, this is just a nightmare. Make it stop. Just the pummeling, the pounding. And, of course, the emperor dancing around with no clothes. Sorry, it's a cartoon, so it's a censored version, but you have to imagine that he has truly no clothes, cock hanging out in the wind. He says he has to leave. Maybe he's going home to his planet. Maybe it's not too late. Maybe he's getting out. He also said that the federal government has absolute power. So much for your states and all of that nonsense. During the crisis, he said the states were on their own, but now that he wants to reopen them, he has absolute power. During the crisis, he said that he has no responsibility, but now he says he has absolute power. So it's pretty
unlimited
bizarre.
power.
It's pretty strange. Biggest meltdown of a president of the United States I've ever seen in my career. I don't think a reasonable person could watch what we just saw over the last hour and conclude that the president is in control. Total authority, absolute power. Let's see. Keep going here. We're trying to get past this thing. We talked about Trump's friend. He had no emotion for him. He talked about Trump refuses to acknowledge any mistakes. That's a solid chyron. That really nails it. More deranged in this press briefing than Saddam Hussein when they pulled him out of that hole in the ground. It's not total, Mr. President. It's totally appalling and totally wrong. He hates his authority being questioned. He has absolute power. He has contempt for the law. What did you do in February? Here's what I did in January and March. What did you do in February? Here's what I did in January and March. What did you do in February? It's pretty easy to destroy this guy. All you need is a calendar. Just repeat February, the second month. It wasn't just me who thought that Trump was very cold, talking about his friend who passed away. All Trump could talk about was how excited Stanley was for Trump to be president. Trump used someone else's death only to promote himself. It was a stunning description. Here it is right here. Let's go ahead and watch it. Again, a person without emotions, a sociopath. I'll go ahead and pull up the description during this video. But a sociopath is a person who can't show emotions. Now, I agree we all want to hide our emotions in public. We don't want to be embarrassed, crying and so forth. You know, you want to hold things in. But just look at this man's emotions as he talks about his friend who passed away. I'm sure you'll all agree, just like I would, this is perfectly normal human reaction.
Thank you. Stanley Shera is a friend of mine for a long time. He's a great real estate person. Passed away, was a great real estate person. Great. Sort of a legend in New York real estate. He called me a couple of weeks ago, said he's tested positive. Stanley's in his early to mid 80s, I guess. And Stanley went to the hospital, and he never came out. He went into a coma. He was unconscious for a long period of time, and he never made it. A great man. He left very charitable, really a great philanthropist, a very, very successful person in Manhattan in the real estate business. So I got to know him a lot. He was so excited when his friend from New York became the president of the United States. He was like a young boy. And he was not a young boy, but he was like a young boy. He was so excited. He thought would do such a good job, and he was so happy. And he was very proud of what we've done in this administration. But he was tested positive, and unfortunately, he didn't make it. To me, it's a very sad thing. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
It's very sad, but it was really nice that how excited his friend was when he heard that his friend Trump was president. That's something to really.
It was a big moment in his life, clearly, that his friend has become president. Probably about the only thing worth mentioning about the man's life. And clearly the only moment they had together. Certainly golfing together and hunting together and all the years of being friends. It was that moment that rose to the top. So in case you're wondering, a psychopath doesn't have a conscience. If he lies to you so he can steal your money, he won't feel any moral qualms, though he may pretend to. He may observe others and then act the way they do, so he's not found out. On the other hand, a sociopath typically has a conscience, but it's weak. He may know that taking your money is wrong, and he might feel some guilt or remorse, but that won't stop his behavior. Both lack empathy, the ability to stand in someone else's shoes and understand how they feel, but a psychopath has less regard for others. Someone with this personality type sees others as objects he can use for his own benefit.
Lovely guy.
So maybe he's more of a psychopath, less of a sociopath, right? We really have to get our terms apt here. He just implicated his own staff in Hatch Act violations. That's right. We've got a campaign finance reform issue right here. The president says the video was produced by White House staff and not outside campaign team. So that you can wrap that up. That's a campaign finance reform violation. That's a felony. So a good one there. The whole month of February, what was Trump doing? This is great for you guys. Remember, this is when people were getting ready to get infected and to die from this disease. He held campaign rallies February 10th in New Hampshire, February 19th in Arizona, February 20th in Colorado, February 23rd in my home state of Nevada. All right. February 28th in South Carolina. So he was busy doing things. He just wasn't preparing for the virus. Even though he shut down China in January, in February, he did nothing but play golf and go to campaign rallies. This is when we could have been getting extra gloves and masks. This is when we could have been getting extra swabs. This is when we could have actually been building the ventilators so we'd have a chance to use them. But we did nothing. And again, you're fine with that. Everyone's fine with that. You're like, did nothing. I think it's great. Like, I wish he could have infected more people with the virus in February. Maybe if he'd gone out shaking people's hands at a hospital. That's what we really need here. Just like Boris, right? Just like Boris. Let's keep going. Remember they had that election in Wisconsin? Well, it turned out liberal Justice Jill Krakowski has defeated the conservative incumbent in Wisconsin's Supreme Court election. The race was marred by GOP leaders forcing Milwaukee area voters to vote in person at only 5 polling places instead of 180. So you know what the people did? They showed up and voted, and they voted those bums out. So get ready. Get ready. And he did nothing. He did nothing. He did nothing. And now he has total authority. The authority is total. Who does this guy think he is? The Chancellor of Germany in 1933? Hi-oh! Racking them in. Shout out to Bitfinex. Maybe they could add daily change in volume to their Bitcoin API. That would be cool. Then I could read that. Live concerts likely won't return until fall 2021. So that's almost 2022, according to the director of the Healthcare Transformation Institute at the University of Pennsylvania. So don't get ready for a concert soon, especially not one like this with all the people.
Like the Stereophonics that happened in the UK. Like there was the Cheltenham Festival and the Stereophonics just before lockdown. And they reckon that probably contributed a lot to the They had a similar article in the U.S. about how the San Francisco 49ers losing the Super Bowl might have saved hundreds or thousands of lives because there wasn't a parade in San Francisco. And this would have been a major infection point. California already had the virus. Instead, San Francisco locked down. But if they'd had a massive street parade, we could have seen the spread in California be much, much worse.
Or if they stood on Westminster Bridge and clapped, within half a meter of each other, pretty much in each other's pockets, like the head of police was organized for some insane reason a group clap on the bridge where everyone flouted the social distancing rules if they're a copper and random people. So pretty crazy.
That was quite a shocking video from the UK. It seemed like to celebrate the medical workers, they wanted to get themselves infected so they'd have more work to do. That's really kind. That's thoughtful. That's like when you litter to create jobs. That's nice. Oh, let's see. Lindsey Graham has a bunch of Russia-linked donations. Nothing to see there. I'm sure that's fine. Lupus patient on hydrochloroquine is scared to death that he won't have access to his medication because President Trump is selling drugs to fund his presidential campaign. There's no evidence that this medicine works for COVID-19, but it works for lupus, and it's saving this guy's life, and he might not be able to get the medicine because of this bizarre press campaign for a lupus and malaria drug. Certainly if it helps, doctors should use it. Certainly if it helps, scientists should write about it. But I'm not sure why the president and a whole crew of people on Twitter have suddenly become doctors and are telling everyone how great hydroxychloroquine is. It seems like the doctors were already using it. So the doctors already knew, and they're already working on tests. So I'm not sure why all these amateur doctors are suddenly been drafted. The Bitcoin.
If the doctors are already using it, and there's various tests that are underway, then surely that's the reason why there's promise being shown. And it's not just one place. It's not just the US. There's France, Amsterdam, as we the Netherlands. There's multiple places where they've been trialing these. So and obviously, yeah, like I don't know. I think they probably have a bit more information than we do.
Well, it's probably better to let the doctors and scientists work on this. When the President of the United States announced from his forum, from his podium, that this was a miracle cure that cured the disease, he even said that he was going to take it as a preventative. He said you had nothing to lose, and pretty went on a full advertising blitz for this drug, almost as if he wanted to cover up the 2 or 3 month period that he helped the virus spread by doing nothing. Almost as if he was desperate and would do anything to distract you from that 2 to 3 month period, from those 4 to 8 weeks that we already have the emails for, where the doctors were screaming in their chat rooms, "I can't believe no one is doing anything." Maybe he feels bad about that, and he wants this drug to solve the problem. The Bitcoin hash rate continues to climb, as we've been saying, with everyone trying to get the last of those high block rewards. So anybody who's got a miner anywhere has turned it on. We might see some of these miners immediately turned off after the block halving. It may be only worthwhile to run them right now. Maybe they're running them on a last-ditch attempt. Maybe they can get some of these 12.5 block rewards before it goes down to 6.25.
Doesn't the difficulty take a step up again? Is that right? It was only just recently.
The difficulty took a step down. They had turned off a lot of miners and caused the difficulty to go down, which gives them that period where they can then turn on the miners again before the difficulty readjusts, which it will readjust. So during that time, they could really crank it. So there is a bit of strategy here, especially if you controlled a large amount of miners, like some companies might. Virginia governor signs legislation making Election Day a holiday and dropping the voter ID requirement. Looks like we're going to have an increase in turnout in Virginia, previously a Republican state, starting to lean blue over the past few years. But now that it's easier to vote, it'll probably go Democrat. Bummer. Jill Karofsky won 53-47, a tromping defeat in Minnesota, a big victory for the Democrats, despite the attempts at voter suppression. The bishop who defied social distancing dies after contracting COVID-19. So I don't want to say anything religious, but I'm not sure if you're going to receive protection. We need to be more serious about this. Let's live to pray another day. Let's pray at home. Let's stay safe. Continuing to work on the short videos for the World Crypto Network. Andrew Cuomo responded to the president claiming total authority, saying that it was not an accurate statement and that in his opinion, we do not have a king in this country. Strong pushback from Andrew Cuomo, saying there are many things you can debate in the Constitution because they are ambiguous. This is not one of those things. It's violative to the very concept of democracy. That statement cannot stand. So for those of you who are celebrating the king in the chat, it violates the very concept of democracy to have a king. So not a good look from Trump. And here's the story I just talked about a minute ago. The 49ers lost the Super Bowl, but may have saved lives because there was not a concert or there was not a parade in the Bay Area after the victory. Here's a great shot. Anthony Fauci is the only one on stage to acknowledge that the emperor has no clothes. Cold-blooded Photoshop there. A little humor. They're trying to save the U.S. Postal Service. It's a vital service, much like the roads. It allows people to do business. It allows you to receive bills, which is not great. But if you didn't receive your bill and you didn't pay for your service, you wouldn't be on the internet now. So Trump is saving the airlines, maybe saving the cruise ship companies. He's saving Ruth Chris, the steakhouse, who just took a giant bite of the small business loans which is a really bad look. I'd never go there. And he's saying, yes, he's going to put 600,000 U.S. Postal Service employees out of work so that he can lash out at Jeff Bezos, try to screw over Amazon, and kill vote by mail. This is a shocking turn of events, a very bad look. And, of course, everyone's now just, oh, I don't like the post office. Oh, they lost my mail one time, so we should just destroy them. That's real smart. That's really smart. Speaking of other smart things, actual smart things, they've jailbroken a CPAC machine and turned it into an emergency ventilator by unlocking all operational modes and allowing custom software extensions. Computer programmers, hackers, coders are going to save the day. Let's hear it for engineering and science. Continue to solve problems. Getting out there. Of the 8 million CPAPs in the United States, almost 5 million shipped over the last 3 years have an always-on cellular Internet of Things connection. It means they can selectively upgrade by serial number. It can all work over the air. So hopefully the main company will take this jailbreak, apply it to their own machines, and suddenly we'll have turned a bunch of CPAP machines into ventilators. Very cool. Also very cool, stop everything and stream these 180 songs from the Homestar Runner soundtrack. You guys might be too young, but years ago there was a thing called Flash animation, one of the first animation styles on the internet, and one of the best animations you could watch back in those days was Homestar Runner and Strong Bad and all
Salad Fingers.
Yes, and Techno and all the great Homestar videos. So now you can check out the soundtrack. It's on iTunes and all the other platforms. And there's 180 songs. He said he was trying to do it. It was a 3-volume soundtrack. He said that they would only let him do 60 tracks in each volume. He was really trying to crank the power into these volume, the numbers. So check him out, Homestar Runner. Funny stuff. Tone Vase just had a video out from his poker tournament. That's pretty cool. I'm not sure why the video's been marked as potentially sensitive content. That's strange. It was just a poker tournament.
Is it because of that naughty outfit you're wearing during the?
It was a very nice. It was a very nice dress. They donated it so I could wear it. So here's a little bit of Tone's poker tournament. Hey, there I am. I did some commentary. Sponsored by Bybit, I guess. And there it is, the unconfiscatable poker tournament. Max Kaiser was there, and shocking turn of events there in the end. I know you guys wouldn't believe it, but Tone won. Tone won his own poker tournament at his own conference. So pretty amazing. He had some incredible lucky hands. I think at one point it was Ace 8 versus Ace 3, and Tone had the Ace 3, and he drew like 2 3s on the cards. So he came out with a 3 of a kind 3s and defeated the pair of aces or something. But very cool stuff. Hey, look, they included Ugly Old Goat in there. That's nice. Check out Tone Vase's poker tournament. There's a cool video of that out right now. Government aid is coming to airlines. Too bad they're laying off their employees. Should have put a rule in there. And a few days ago, we celebrated our 1-year anniversary of Dan, Crypto Raptor, myself, and BTC Socialist, who held the camera, claiming Stonehenge for Bitcoin. I'm going to go ahead and mute it here. We played a little bit of the God Save the Queen song here. And I misspelled the word government. There it is. Government with an N. But yes, this was us claiming Stonehenge for Bitcoin from last year, filmed by BTC Socialist. There it is. Very high definition, nice looking video here. I think it's the iPhone camera from last year. It's a real Stonehenge in the background. Those are the real rocks. We don't have that much footage of us actually waving the flag. We were quickly interrupted by an English Heritage Guardsman who was very upset that we were waving any flag. Maybe it would block people's view. Maybe they just don't like flags. But he was especially incensed when he learned it was a Bitcoin flag. Almost as if he had been warned by the Central Bank of England not to allow Bitcoin flags to be flown at Stonehenge. Certainly, the resulting disaster could produce coronavirus or something. Who knows? But we flew the flag anyway. It was fun. But there's Dan continuing to hold the flag in defiance of the monitor, the censor. And you can see at the end of this video, he comes up with his mighty hand to stop the Bitcoin flag from flying. Oh, there he is. Boo. Boo this man. Boo. And there he is. He's going to take our flag. No, you can't take our flag. How dare you touch our flag? Oh.
What an asshat.
Yeah. It was not a good look. And then they followed us around like criminals for the rest of our visit. So it was a bit unnerving, thinking that you're going to be thrown out of a big field at some point, embarrassed in front of the other tourists. But it was a bit of a bummer. You couldn't actually touch. You couldn't actually touch the Stonehenge. They had like a big barrier, and that's mainly what the guys were there to keep you from touching it and gaining magical powers, the ability to move paper with your mind.
On the winter and summer solstice, they open it up so that all the hippies and druids go down there, and like my sister used to go down raving. You could just, they're like up all night. Everyone's kind of raving, as it were. And sounds pretty interesting. I'm pretty sure they still do it as well. Maybe not during coronavirus.
I'd definitely like to go back there for that. That would be a lot of fun. I also heard that in England, if you find any treasure or old Roman gold in the ground, that it belongs to the king, because people were trying to bury those so they could avoid paying taxes, maybe hand it on to the descendants or whatever. But no, king won't have that. But actually, I see that as a good thing. If it wasn't for the damn coronavirus, I think I would already be in England with a metal detector searching for that sweet, sweet Roman gold. And sure, I'm proud to work for the Queen. I would love to donate my sweet, sweet Roman gold to the British Museum. I'll take some pictures first, and I'll show people, and I'll hold Roman gold and whatever else we can do. But I think it would be super fun to go digging in England with some new high-tech fancy metal detector, better than the old ones, to get that hidden Roman gold and stuff. So
I was me and my friend Normski, we drove up to Scotland, and then from down south, and went across to the Orkney Islands, and we went and watched a dig at one of the old school places. Can't remember what it's called now, Skagalaudagan or something like that. But they found, on the day that we were there, they found like a mini axe that they guessed that was roughly from the Mesolithic period, and they were like they were pumped about it. They were like, yeah, woo. And it felt pretty good. It was pissing it down, but we stayed and watched it. It was awesome.
I'm pumped for them. When I was in Greece there, they were working on something in Sardinia, near the coast, where they had put up sandbags and were holding back the ocean so that they could dig up this temple. And I was like, whoa, I'm in Greece. I'm close to that. Maybe I could go there. And it was logistically impossible. I don't have a car or anything. But man, it'd be neat to go to an archaeological site, or to go to a dig or something like that, or even just to go to Stonehenge and to fly the Bitcoin flag. Of course, much like these guys, I thought Stonehenge would be bigger. That looks a little small. You need some kind of midget to dance around that, some kind of little person. That's politically incorrect to say midget these days, but it was in the film. But yeah, a little classic Stonehenge from Spinal Tap there. This is Spinal Tap. Great movie. Let's keep moving. Rainn Wilson from The Office woke up. He said, I had a bad dream that the U.S. was cutting funding to the World Health Organization during a deadly global pandemic. Oh, bummer. That's true. Sorry about that, Rainn. Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, Idiocracy needs to be reclassified as the first ever prophetical documentary on IMDb. He says that there's a big problem in Florida. People are watching reruns from the early 2000s. They're starved for content, and that's why he declared live pro wrestling shows as an essential service during the pandemic. Do you want to hear it, Dan? Do you want to hear it? Is it good enough? We should play it. This is Florida. This is Florida governor. So we're all gonna get dumber having watched it. But let's give it a try. America. Here's the governor of Florida explaining why he approved wrestling shows during the pandemic, which again is terrible for the wrestlers. We're talking physical, skin to skin content, sweat to sweat content, like putting your hands in people's faces, like Disaster, guys, disaster. But let's see why we need this in Florida.
But we haven't made any decision yet here. So.
Other types of business for exemptions to essential businesses? You've given WWE, for example, the ability to function.
So as people, that Disney asked to have some of the gardening people be able to go because they have all the millions of dollars worth of stuff there, and it would just go bad. And then we said, okay, is there going to be social distance? Yeah, people are going to go out and work themselves. Obviously, WWE, there's no crowd or anything, so it's a very, very small number of people. So we just kind of look at it on a case-by-case basis. We haven't had a huge amount of requests. I mean, so I think a lot of this will just be, what do we look like in May with some of this rather than being able to do stuff. Now, the one thing, though, I do support is I think that we do need to support content, especially sports and events. And we're not going to have crowds there. I get that. But if we can do, if NASCAR does a race and can televise it without having large crowds, I think that's a good thing. I'd like to see Woods and Mickelson do the golf or whatever, because that's social distance. You wouldn't have a gallery there. You wouldn't have crowds. But to put that on TV, I think people have been starved for content. I mean, we haven't had a lot of new content since the beginning of March. Here we are now, or the middle of March. Here we are, the middle of April. And if people are, being told to stay closer to the house, it sure does help to have some fresh things to be able to do. And I think people are chomping at the bit. I mean, if you think about it, we've never had a period like this in modern American history where you've had such little new content, particularly in the sporting realm. I mean, people are watching. We're watching reruns from the early 2000s, watching Tom Brady do the Super Bowl then, which is neat because he's going to be in Tampa, and I think they got a chance to win a Super Bowl this year. But I think people, to be able to have some light at the end of the tunnel, see that things may get back on a better course. I think from just a psychological perspective, I think is a good thing. So.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, I would exit after that question too. I wouldn't stick around. That was pretty classic there. Florida governor supporting reopening wrestling because there's not enough TV. People are watching repeats from the 2000s. They're watching Tom Brady win the Super Bowl. This is so horrible. If only we had stocked up on more television. The Strategic National Television Reserve is actually running very thin. That's why we've launched the local host and the late night hosts who continue to spread the word even as they broadcast from home. And that's why we're suggesting that you should check out the show Money Heist on Netflix. Money Heist is a very cool Spanish Spanish television show called, the real title is actually even better, La Casa de Papel, which even gets you right into what they're actually doing, which is they're robbing the Spanish mint. And I'm sure you guys thought like I do, well, why would you rob the mint? That's where they print the money. But what if you could print the money? So check out Money Heist on Netflix. It's a cool show. In case you're in trouble, like the governor says, you have nothing to watch. My goodness. But Dan, what do you think about his idea that we should reopen wrestling, football, NASCAR? This is from a governor. This is an advanced high-level position. This is one of 50.
I mean, it's all good and well saying, we need to start thinking about this phased approach, but it's pretty silly to think that, or to say that, we're starved of content. I mean, every day that goes by, there's, so many hours of content being added around the world of stuff to watch that, you would, every day there's a lifetime of stuff, that's being added. So I think it's just a bit crazy. They've picked certain things like WWE, but we do have to start thinking about how to scale back into society without being, too crazy and doing it all at once.
And it's funny, again, I'm reminded of this classic bit from the Eric Andre show where Hannibal Buress, the comedian, is joking with one of the guests, as they do often. It's a mock talk show. It's not a real talk show. It's a joke. But they'll go to the guest and they were like, he said, do you think they could just stop making movies? Like, I missed a few and I need 6 months to catch up. Do you think they could just stop making movies for 6 months? It would really help me out, give me a chance to catch up. And Hannibal's right on the money today. I mean, this governor would be right there with him, even though it's a joke talk show. Yeah, he's saying that people are watching reruns. It's just incredible. People are dying in Florida. The governor is worried about them watching reruns. And legalizing wrestling shows. It's probably going to come out later. I'm sure the wrestling people are huge supporters of the governor, and they're very happy to have sent him all that money. And the governor was very happy to receive it. And I'm sure wrestling's a big business down in Florida, and they wanted to keep it going. But just a bad look, and also a complete lack of concern for the wrestlers involved. Making skin-to-skin content with all these other people, who knows where they've been. And that's basically the thing that's going to echo in your head every time you try to eat food prepared by another person. Who knows where these people have been? And previously that was just, kind of you're a little over paranoid or a little over scared or whatever. But given the virus, it's no longer unreasonable to think those things. I'm not mainstreaming it here. Again, it's not about me and my little show or whatever. This isn't changing anything. But you need to be prepared for it. It's a big problem. No one wants food prepared by other people. No one wants anything touched by anyone else anymore. Sad news from Los Angeles. The LA Times is going to furlough workers as ad revenue was nearly eliminated. We've been watching the death of newspapers for a long time now, but it looks like the crisis, like the coronavirus crisis, might finally kill them off. As fun as it is to... Go ahead, Dan.
Sorry, you think that right now people have got nothing to do? Surely this is the time when YouTube, newspaper sites, all of those are going to be getting the most traffic. It's news. It's a news heaven right now, right?
It might be for national ads, but maybe they rely on more local ads. You have to imagine all the classified sections. No one's selling anything. No one's going to buy anything at their neighbor's house. Real estate advertisements. No one's trying to sell houses right now, sell cars right now. All their sale ads probably went down completely. Whereas YouTube can keep sending out more of a national ad, more of a generic ad. The LA Times might just be in trouble ad-wise. And it was probably part of a continuing trend. We're not saying this trend wasn't here, but when the virus hit, it amplified it. We've seen the same thing. We talked about it with comic book stores. We always say Americans barely have enough money for 1 month. If they have a $500 expense, a lot of them have to go bankrupt. And comic book stores, it turned out, were the exact same way. People can't go to the stores. They can't get the books. The stores are going out of business. The company that actually distributes the comic books, that picks them up and ships them to stores, they're going out of business. The entire supply chain for comic books is essentially gone. And I know you're laughing and, just do the internet. But there are a lot of people who do like physical comic books. It's an art medium. Sometimes the pictures look better on paper. We've been printing on paper for a long time. We can make it look really nice, as well as just the monthly type subscription nature of comic books. But yeah, comic books, newspapers might be two of the unexpected fatalities to the coronavirus. Let's see. Trump. Oh, yeah, this is a good one. We'd be remiss if we didn't at least mention this. Trump's insistence that his name appear on the checks is slowing their delivery. So, yes, Trump slowed down the stimulus check so he could add his name on it so that you would know this money is coming from him. I'm told that the internal discussions, what he really wanted was for his signature, his famous Donald Trump scrawl, to be on there. But they said that would be pretty much impossible. But they could delay the checks for a couple of days. So if you're sitting at home and you have no food and no money and you really need that $1,200 government stimulus check and you don't have direct deposit, I'm sorry, your check's going to be delayed so the president's name could be added to the check. It's just like nothing else you can do. It's just, you can't, we could make this up. I wish we were making this up. April Fools, that's a hoax. That's a joke. No, I'm sorry, that's true. They delayed the stimulus checks so they could put his name on it. And again, you wish that at some level the man would say, hey, maybe we shouldn't delay the checks if you have to put my name on it. Maybe, we're going to delay them. That's going to help. That's going to hurt people who don't have money. I have empathy for them. I think about what it's like to stand in their shoes. Or you could just be like, forget it. Who cares? Sad. Very sad. Let's keep going. Oh, we had the sad announcement here. Tony Lane Casserly allegedly passed away. Brock Pierce says that she was like a little sister to him. She was a bright light wherever she went, and thanks her for the time that they shared. So, sad farewell to Tony Lane Casserly. Jeremy also commented on this. He knew Tony Lane pretty well. He said that she radiated like no other light. Sometimes she shined too bright, but only with the best intentions. He's never met anyone quite like Tony Lane, and he was shocked by her passing. Josh Gagala also commented on Tony Lane and wished her family and loved ones strength through this tough time.
So Jennifer's asking, do you want to recap why allegedly with Tony Lane about the fake the fake profile, the TLC ghost profile?
Well, there was only allegedly, because we haven't seen an official announcement in a newspaper or other source that would verify this. Right now, the main evidence for what this is happening is there's a screenshot of a Facebook post that's been reposted. There was a very strange Twitter account that was just deleted today called TLC Ghost. It had been sent around in some of the back channels. The Twitter account made very strange claims, allegedly saying perhaps that Tony Lane would be similar to, what's her name? Sarah Palmer from the Twin Peaks show. I think it's Sarah, Amanda, something like that. But it would be similar to the character from the Twin Peaks show where the woman is murdered. These posts started appearing in December of last year. Tony Lane is an artist. It's entirely possible that this is a hoax and she faked her own death. I don't have any evidence on that and any information on that. Allegedly, whatever. I don't know. But again, you with your own thing, and if it's all nonsense, I'm very sorry for bringing it up. I don't want to even really talk about it. But Dan said Jennifer wanted more information. So if you have more information on that, especially if you have just a link to a proper obituary, I would be glad to share that and just to put that to rest, be done with that. But, Twitter is what Twitter is, and people want to do what they want to do. So I don't know. We talked about social distancing, how now we need affordable internet more than ever. Jennifer thanks us in the chat. Yeah, sorry, we don't want to say anything negative about Tony Lane or what's happening. And it just, as a possibility, it was a very strange Twitter account. So, but it's been deleted now, so I'm sure that's fine. Here's some Trump people in Ohio demanding that the governor open businesses back up. These are people who want the right to get sick and die. So, I don't know. I guess the libertarians say they should get sick and die, but the problem is that they also infect other people who didn't necessarily want to get sick and die. So, very strange. Conan knocked over his tripod while filming his show. That's pretty fun. Everyone's filming at home now, so that's been nice to watch. Shout out to C. Boozy. He got to talk to CBS News about his software, Bot Sentinel. This is very cool software. He analyzes Twitter, tries to find troll bots that amplify various hashtags and other fake news. So he's been very successful at finding these troll bots. They're not very good at hiding their tracks. So shout out to C. Boozy. Does good work. If this is an advertisement for Bitcoin, I don't know what is. This is the amount of cash printed in the United States since 2007. The money supply has more than doubled in just these few years. So pretty shocking stuff. Trump's talking about adjourning both chambers of Congress so that he can make appointments to fill judicial slots. Another thing he doesn't have the power to do. He doesn't have the power to adjourn Congress, like they're saying here. Andrew Yang is celebrating moving the Overton window for universal basic income. Originally, when he started his campaign, no one wanted universal basic income. They all called it socialism. They all said we don't need it. But now with the coronavirus crisis and other potential crisis in the future, it's very clear we should give everyone a little bit of something. And this also expands to a great thing I saw on the Some More News show. Check out Some More News with Cody. He's great. And he talked about how maybe food, healthcare, water, and a little bit of money should just be mandatory. We should just give that to everyone. The GDP would go up. We'd get more production out of everyone. It would be good for everyone in the long run. But we'll see if we're smart enough to try that. Elizabeth Warren is interested in becoming Joe Biden's vice president, saying that she would accept a hypothetical offer to become vice president. Elizabeth Warren has a lot of plans. Could be a good partner to Joe Biden. We shout out to Money Heist, Casa de Papel, a very cool movie about a heist at the Spanish Mint. I'll warn you, there's 4 seasons. Normally, you might be freaked out. You might think, oh, damn, I just wanted to watch a 2-hour movie and get out. But given the crisis we're under, 4 seasons of Money Heist just means that's 4 great seasons for you to watch while you're stuck at home. I've only seen parts of the first season. I don't know if it gets better in the second seasons, but it's a very interesting heist movie broken up into a lot of parts, kind of like The Sopranos of heist movies. Dan, do you want to pick your favorite 5 video game franchises from this graphic here? Go ahead. Any of these that you played that you like?
F-Zero, Banjo-Kazooie, then Jack and Dexter, Pac-Man World. Go for that. I think that's 4 actually, isn't it? And then another one. So I'll go for Knights.
See, I have a totally different stack here. I would agree with you on F-Zero. Then I would go towards Golden Sun, the role-playing game. That was good stuff. Advance Wars, kind of like a Command and Conquer turn-by-turn strategy game. I like that. And then I would like Punch-Out, the classic old Nintendo boxing game. So these are the franchises that you can bring back if you want. The internet was discussing things like that. Bill Gates is concerned that we're cutting off funding for the WHO during a health crisis. That's just as dangerous as it sounds, as he says. Their work is helping slow the spread of COVID-19, and if their work is stopped, no other organization can replace them. The world needs the WHO more than ever. So if you look back, they did put out warnings about China. They did put out warnings that were ignored, and other countries like South Korea managed to follow their warnings to success.
They failed, man.
Just the mask thing, or more than that?
They're dodgiest. Mate,
they were given bad information by China. What are they supposed to do? Say to China, the biggest country in the world, that oh, you gave us bad information.
They were given on the 31st of on the 31st of December. Taiwan sent them a letter, which is now an open letter, which told them that it was human to human. They ignored that letter. The fact that they've told people about not wearing masks is absurd. Like, there's no, you know. This
yeah, but they're not wearing masks. We know that's going to come out. That's going to come out as a supply share. They're going to come out and they're going to say we were worried about the doctors not having masks, so we decided to tell the public that you shouldn't wear masks. And yeah, we know now it's a mistake. We know now that it's a respiratory, that it spreads through air and all these other things, and also that just in the 1918 pandemic, having everyone wear a mask stops the spread of the disease because the people who are infected cough and it goes into the mask now, right? They don't know they're infected. A lot of people were asymptomatic with this thing. They'd get a cough they didn't know. If they were just wearing a mask by default, they wouldn't spread it. But that's something we know now. I mean, certainly they knew it in Asia. There's different standards here for masks. Even now they're talking about the casinos. They're not sure if they want to let people with masks in. And it's like, well, I guess you just don't want people to go to the casino then, do you? Oh, yeah, well, we should change our mind on that. So, I don't know. The jury's still out. I don't think it's a good time to cut their funding during the middle of this thing. If we could just wait until the disease stops spreading.
And they had one job, and they not only screwed it up, but they were instrumental in it proliferating around the world through either gross negligence or incompetence or
but
something.
Sure, surely that's something you settle after the war, right? We had the Nuremberg trials after the war. The Nazis had surrendered, then we had the trial. So in this case, has the virus surrendered? Because I don't think the virus is surrendered, so I don't think we should be cutting off their funding.
No, but
sure, if they're bad, they're bad. Let's have a trial. But
each of the individual countries is coming up with their own vaccination. The WHO's
got nothing left to do now. They've already let it get, around the world. They're not doing anything. It's all the countries doing something themselves. The information's being shared country to country, and it should have gone by the WHO, but they chose to ignore the Taiwan thing. I don't know. I just think, as you said with Trump and Fox and stuff, the full story is definitely going to come out, and there's going to be some heads rolling.
It will. I just think we could wait till after to cut their funding, but that's just a timing issue.
Yeah.
Let's keep moving.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, checks are slowed down. Oh, yeah, this is another thing about the stimulus check. They didn't put any protections on this check. They could have put a protection saying that these checks couldn't be claimed, say, for divorces, or if you owe the government money, or if you have a debt, things like that. Banks couldn't take the check because the idea for this check was you're out of money and you need to buy food, right? This was the you're out of money, you need to buy food check. But they say it turns out they didn't protect it, and banks could just take your check. So if you were in debt and you needed this money to buy food, the banks could just take your check. So a failure of Congress and then a greed issue from the banks. I'm not even sure why this money would even hit banks. We should just keep it away from them. But hot spots erupt in Farm Belt states where governors insist lockdowns aren't needed. It's almost like the virus continues to spread even into places that don't have the virus. It seems like not having the virus is just a precursor to having the virus. So we should be prepared. And instead we're going to open up states and try to improve the spread of the virus. That's not right. Bitcoin must be the reason the chart guys always predict both directions. It's always going up when they say down and down when they say up. Big story here. Science news. Astronomers saw a star dancing around a black hole, and it proves Einstein's theory was right. That's right. A star is being sucked into a black hole, and we can now see the orbit of the star around the black hole as it's drawn in to the singularity. This is the first time we've ever witnessed this. So it is pretty impressive, and it proves Einstein's theories about black holes were correct. So really amazing, interesting science story, far bigger than the other things happening right now. But of course, we're gonna ignore it for now and keep moving. New Zealand locked down before they had a single death, and they tested like crazy. It never accepted herd immunity or that loved ones would die. So it seems like if you don't have any deaths, you could lock down like New Zealand right here on the chart. Hardly maybe 20 cases in the entire country because they locked down before they had it. It almost seems like the way that you fight viruses is you do things before you need to do them. And if you wait until everyone has the virus, or if you let them go out to the beaches or the businesses and just get infected more, that you're going to have more cases, that you're going to have more dead. It's just what it seems like. All the evidence and all the facts. Those pesky facts. Another 5.2 million employees in America filed unemployment claims last week. That's now 22 million jobs lost over the last month. Nearly all the new jobs added since the 2008 recession. So President Trump promised to undo everything that the Obama administration did. That also meant giving back all the jobs and all the stock market gains. So maybe not what people were expecting. Too bad. I like this story from Angie Maxwell. She says she found her kid playing with the dog instead of Zooming with her teacher. She then told me not to worry. She took a screenshot of herself paying attention, then cut her video and replaced it with a picture. It's a gallery view of 20 kids, Mom. They can't tell. She's 10 years old. So there you go. Future hacker in the making. Not attending class because you could just put the picture in. So pretty fun. We're continuing to work on video. Oh, check out this. Conan O'Brien had Russell Brand on his at-home show. This was a fun interview with two of my favorite people. You should check that out. Russell Brand on the Conan show. I think we're trying to head towards the end of the show. The coronavirus small business program's out of money. Trump supporters
didn't
Sorry, didn't someone huge got a small business loan? It was a $10 million loan. Was it? I'm sure it was on your Twitter.
Well, I know Ruth Chris, the steakhouse, got like a $10 million loan. There was another company, something like Potbelly or something like that. I think they make sandwiches, Potbelly sandwiches. They got a $5 million loan from the Small Business Administration, the administration that's now out of money. So yes, it does seem like there were some loopholes allowing these incredibly large businesses to apply for funding and then to suck it all up as well. And everyone knows how to deal with this. You just don't shop there. Sadly, Ruth Chris is a very fancy steakhouse that I've never even been to. So me shopping there, I'm already on it. But for the rest of you with $100 to blow on a steak, you should stop going to Ruth Chris. You should go to Morton's instead. Go to Morton's Steakhouse, down with Ruth Chris. And again, they knew everyone would know this. They knew they were taking the money from the small business administrations. They were taking the loans, and they didn't care. They did it anyway. So bad look on them. Bad look on their PR people, Ruth Chris, not thinking this through. Trump supporters fear Bill Gates wants to make a COVID-19 vaccine to secretly implant them with brain chips. So it's starting already.
There's a lot of Bill bashing, isn't there, at the moment?
I'm glad that we cut. I'm glad we cut funding for science education in this country. I'm glad that we have so many future geniuses and great studies. People who have really studied this thing.
Yeah, to be fair though, like the when it's so easy to spread false information and it spreads, it's the crazy headlines are going to sell something. The science of 5G being rolled out and there's no problem at all is nothing compared to it's going to spark coronavirus in your brain and all of that, and it's so much easier to spread that crap, and all you need is one idiot to come up with something that's remotely slightly convincing, and then you've got other people, you just hordes of people that then just parrot it and go setting fire to 5G masks.
Well, it's really incredible. I watched Fox News for about 5 minutes yesterday, and it was really unbelievable. They said unconfirmed sources, that their sources are getting more and more close to confirming, right? Which is still the same thing, still unconfirmed. And then they went on to repeat the story that the virus may have come out of a Chinese weapons lab. And 3 seconds later, after they said that it was, unconfirmed reports, they said China's responsible and China must pay. And if you were watching that as just a normal person that trusted Fox News and believed what you saw on TV, I suppose you would be full gangbusters against China and blaming them for every death in this crisis, which is hugely irresponsible and there isn't evidence for. And when there is evidence for, I will agree with you. But until that day, when you're still using unconfirmed sources and you're saying things like your sources are getting closer and closer to confirming, that's not the same as confirming. They actually confirm it or they don't confirm it. And when they confirm it, that's when you write about it. That's when you release the hounds, right? If you release the hounds prematurely, first of all, you're ruining our relationship with China, which is a big problem. They supply us with everything, obviously. And second of all, you're doing it for no reason and without evidence, falsely. So it's a pretty bad look, but that's happening apparently all the time on Fox News now. But I think we're going to head to the end of this show. We're going to save some of this news for tomorrow. We talked about Tiger King today. Be sure to check back to the beginning of this show. We did a long update on the new episode of the Tiger King. If you haven't seen that yet, watch that. If you haven't seen the Tiger King, watch it as well. It's not that it's the greatest and most edifying program in all times, guaranteed to solve our problems, but it's a nice distraction and it's a fun show, and this is a good time for a distraction. So, Dan, anything you want to say in closing as we head towards the doors here?
Who is poo?
All right. Dan's not a fan of the WHO, but I'm sure if we looked back in time, they've done a lot of good things before they did a bad thing.
Smallpox.
So,
they smashed smallpox.
See,
that was but that was like in the 60s or 70s or something, man. Like, politics and stuff. I think that there'll be an interesting run on the next couple of weeks of news, I think.
Well, the Mets haven't won a World Series in a long time either. So sometimes we have to cruise on our old responsibilities. But thanks again to everybody for watching this show. Thanks for giving us a thumbs up and a share. Thanks for subscribing down below, hitting the bell for notifications. And we'll be back again. Oh, we didn't even do any international books. It's total ripoff. All right, Dan, we're going to let you go. I'm going to quickly show the people some international books. Everybody say goodbye to Dan.
Take
Bye,
care, everyone.
Dan.
Thanks for joining.
And
ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
And then
Bye-bye.
here's some quick international books because it's International Book Day, and I'd be remiss if I didn't show you guys some books. So hit the microphone. This is my first international book. This is called Hundkopf, The Berlin Ringbahn. And what this is this is a story of pictures shot from the subway in Berlin. And what they did is they went to a station and they just got out of the train and they shot like a roll of film at each station. They had various rules on what to capture. They didn't set any of it up. None of it is planned. It's all just supposed to be kind of like a slice of life of what it was like on the Berlin trains during this time period. So I thought it was a really interesting book. In Berlin, I rode a lot of these trains, so I recognize a lot of these stops. So I thought it was pretty cool. And it's a really neat book about the S-Bahn. It's called Berlin Stories #1, Hundkopf, which I don't know. To me, it looks like dog head. So I don't know if my German is still very much in progress, thanks to Duolingo. So you can do it too. I don't know shit about German, but Duolingo is teaching me everything. Thanks to everybody for hanging on for international books. I know you might not be too into this. This is a really cool art book I got at a museum in Nottingham, England. It's called In a Dream, You Saw a Way to Survive, and You Were Full of Joy. This is by Elizabeth Price, and it's very weird. It's basically reclining people and reclining objects. So things that are laying flat and laying prone. And it's a series of pictures that she felt are kind of on the same topic, that are kind of related to each other. So, wrong page, but there are some people lying down there. So recumbent people is what she's about here. Here's some people lying down. Something's going on there. But very interesting art book. I saw a piece of hers in Nottingham. It was a interactive video piece all about information being encrypted into ties and different mines that they dug into the earth, and that the mines were interconnected by water, and that you could perform a concert, and that the concert would travel through the water and through the various links to the different mines, and they'd be able to hear the concert. So very interesting art from Elizabeth Price in Nottingham, England, where I got to visit once. This is a small book called How to Be an Alien by George Mikes. And I think I picked this up in Austria, in Vienna, when I had a chance to visit there. Actually, here's some evidence. It's a ticket from Kundelberg. So it does look like I was in Vienna. But this is a very neat book about how to be an alien, how to be a foreigner in England. As it says in the back, this is a great humorist during his time. George Mike says, "The English have no soul. They have understatement instead. But they do have a sense of humor. They proved it by buying over 300,000 copies of a book that took them apart quietly and completely apart. A book that really took the mics out of them." So, very cool book. It was a very fun read. I read this while I was in Vienna. This isn't really a book, but I thought it'd be fun to bring up. This is a souvenir of Greece. A guy sold me this on the street for probably a couple bucks or a couple euros. It's just postcards from Greece. That's a really nice one of the Oracle at Delphi. I didn't get to go there. I was outside of town, about 3 hours away. Would have been cool to go. You can see Athens there, the Acropolis. Down below you can see the concert or like place so they can have shows at the Acropolis. Here's some of the other postcards. They all look very bright and blue, kind of advertising Greece. That might be Santori there, one of the great white Grecian cities by the ocean, by the water. I didn't get to go there, but it would have been cool. But here's a postcard book that I picked up in Greece. So, I don't know, international book. Here's another international book. This was kind of like a DuckTales book that I got to learn German, and I'm still working on my German. It's not that good. But you can see here is Mickey Mouse and like Goofy and some other guys, and Huey, Dewey, and Louie. And let's see, here's a random reading. Mickey Mouse, they're talking to him. They says, Ich bekomme einfach keine Kontrolle über die Beile. Billy ist schon ganz enttäuscht. So I am becoming simple, but not control over the ball. Billy is already ganz enttäuscht. So not sure. But again, I got about half of it. So it's fun. Something about controlling the ball and that it's not so easy. It's not so easy to control the ball, especially when the something is already that. So pretty cool little fun book. I got at like a farmer's market or kind of a thrift thing, just supporting the people trying it out. And then I started out today, I wanted to talk about Hawaii. I have just a couple of Hawaii books here. This one's called Remembering Pearl Harbor, the story of the USS Arizona Memorial. And it was really neat. I got to go out to the Arizona Memorial actually this year in 2020. Shocking that anyone got to travel, but it wasn't quite closed up in February back then. I did think it was a risk. Here's some neat pictures of them building the USS Arizona Memorial. It was a really neat thing out there. They have some pictures here of the wooden insides. It looks like a concrete memorial, but it's actually wooden framed on the inside. So that was neat. I didn't know that. And there's also a great shot. I don't know if I can find it right now. Oh, here he is. Of the king, real king. Elvis himself went to Hawaii. He was a big Hawaii supporter, and he helped raise money to build the USS Arizona Memorial. So very cool. Shout out to Elvis. And maybe on the same page, they had a picture of his concert poster. No, not going to be able to find that right now. But Remembering Pearl Harbor, very cool book of the USS Arizona Memorial. And I saved a couple bucks. I got the paperback. I think it was a good decision. Books are so heavy in my bag. And then I wanted to give a neat little show to Attack on Pearl Harbor, an illustrated history. This is a neat book that my grandma got me when she went to Pearl Harbor back in the early 2000s, late 90s. So pretty neat to see how Pearl Harbor books have changed in just a few years. Here's a classic retelling of the World War II story versus now I'm out there buying books about the memorial. So interesting stuff. I had a great time visiting Pearl. It was a very interesting trip to Hawaii. So thanks to everybody for watching. Sorry that I saved the international books for the end. I kind of forgot earlier, but I want to make sure that you get some books here on the Thomas Hunt Show. We'll be back again tomorrow for Big Book Day, the most important day in the week. It's Sunday. That's Big Book Day. So thanks again for joining us, giving us a thumbs up and a share, subscribing down below. We'll be back again tomorrow because I had a good time today. I want to have a good time again tomorrow. So thanks for hanging out with me, and thanks for hanging out with Dan. Until next time, bye-bye.